Okay, it's 7 o'clock on February 12th, Wednesday night, and we have a quorum of DEA members, and I'll call the meeting to order. First public hearing on the agenda is case number 2019-13 on Northwest Main Street with Dermot and Diana Collins, and they're requesting a variance. We read the information at our last meeting, so this is a continuation of the last meeting's open and then close. What I'd like to let you know is that we have 4 members here. In order to pass tonight, to agree to what you're asking for, we need 4 out of 5, or we need a supermajority of members. Right now, with what we've got, we'll have to have a unanimous vote, because 2 of the members are not here. So it's sort of, I can let our attorney explain it a little more if you don't understand, but I want to let you know that if you'd rather continue the case and wait for the other 2 members, you're welcome to do that.
Just go ahead.
Are you just going to go with what we've got here? Okay. Okay.
Right.
So who's going to be presenting the information to us about this?
Me?
Well, come on and sit up. And we can grab another chair if you'd like an assistant. Hi.
I just want to show you a map of, I just want to make sure that you know that the road is 30 feet wide, that's all.
Okay, can you wait a little
Yep,
bit later?
yep. Well, I brought it in earlier to the town. so-
Okay, then you're, okay. Good.
Yeah, so I'm looking to build a 2-car garage
Mm-hmm.
on the lot at the back of where we have a house for storage and parking cars. We don't have any basement in the house or attic space, so just need it for parking, and that's really it.
Members have any questions of the proponent?
I have a question.
Okay.
It's for parking. It appears that you have it's like in an apartment or something.
Mr. Collins, could you come up here and sit? That way we'll be able to have
Yeah, I'm
easier
putting
talking to you.
I'm putting a media room up there on top. Because we've got a bunch of grandkids as well, so we've got to use, I do car repairs as well, just as a hobby, so that's really a place just to sort of hang out, watch games, stuff like that, you know.
And the reason why I bring it up is your description in your application.
Yeah.
That it has no mention of that.
Okay.
That's why I'm asking
Yeah.
that question.
So like, that's really the reason, because like the house itself is very small, you know. And just for overflow, because we have a bunch of grandkids as well. And you know, that's a place they can bring out as well, you know.
Yeah, and just looking at it, it has an appearance of an accessory apartment, actually. I mean, you have a full kitchen, you have an island, an overhang.
Yeah, well, that's just, this is just we got on a plan, like, anything can change on this, you know?
Yep.
Because the fact is, like, it's the difference if you're doing nothing over there, walking across the street, you know, to make a pot of tea or something like that.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I do. You may. What's the application?
I apologize.
Oh, sure. Oh,
This one. Yes,
yes. No, I copied this out of the assessor's GIS map, so it gives you an idea of, this is the locus, and then this across the street is the house.
Yeah.
Like I put the plans in, or this, the application in, we were just doing the plans and then we changed them. We actually made it smaller by 6 feet, so we could meet the front. And,
Do we have a copy of the new plans then?
I think so, yeah, yeah. Everything was, that was fine.
Yeah, these
Okay,
are the plans
ours-
you submitted, right?
Secretary says no.
No. Give me a copy of your plans, you know? Actually.
Did you submit it with your application?
Possible, I'll have to look at it. Have you got that? Yeah, 24 feet. Yeah, that's it, yeah, 24.
Is that smaller than what?
Yeah, yeah, it's smaller than we initially, we took 6 feet off. Yeah.
These aren't the easiest things in the world for me to look at anyway.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
Chairwoman, may I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sir, I apologize. If I could- just to make sure that I understand. You want a parcel of real estate with a house on it presently.
Yeah,
Across the street is where you want to build this building, on this lot,
Yeah.
correct? And the lot's only about 5,000 square feet in terms of its footage. Does that sound about right? I only go by the application that you submitted.
yeah, the lots are small there, it's 106 feet by 50, I think. Yeah,
And I'm not, and so there would still be the two buildings. There would be the building on the lot that is across the street
yeah,
where you presently live, and then there would be this new building
Yeah,
on
yeah,
this
yeah,
lot.
yeah.
And that building would be 2 stories high,
Yeah,
two floors,
two
for lack of a
well,
better way
yeah,
of putting it.
yeah.
It would have a garage underneath,
yeah, and one floor above.
and then the top floor would have some kind of rec room
Yeah, yeah,
with like a kitchen area.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
sort of a dining
yeah.
area. And the reason, I'm trying to not to, why, first of all, what about the lot makes it so that you should get a variance? What, is there
Well,
some reason that you
I
have?
used to own number 13,
Okay.
and that lot was 75 feet by 50. And there's a 3-story house on that, you know, so that was really the reason. I sold that house, but I had a garage in that one. So now my daughter's going to be driving, my wife's driving, my father-in-law and myself. So
I'm
we-
sorry, you're,
my daughter, my wife, my father-in-law, he lives with us.
oh,
Yeah.
a lot of people.
Thank
Yeah.
you, thank you.
Didn't City. Do you have any follow-ups?
The only thing I'm confused about, it looks like an accessory apartment to mine,
Mhm.
to what I'm looking at, and I'm just wondering why it's not applying for one.
Well, I'm just putting an entertainment room in it, that's really it, you know? Because the house is a 3-bedroom house. So, you know, I don't think I would get I don't need another bedroom. I have 3 bedrooms in the house already, so.
But if you look at the layout, this is only my own opinion, if
Yeah.
you look at the layout, it looks like a living room, it looks like a bedroom, it looks like a full kitchen and a full bath.
Well, if I had taken it,
And so
Yeah.
if I was building an accessory apartment, then that's pretty much what the layout would be.
yeah,
So if you're looking for a room, then it's a room over the garage. But
yeah, so if I just take that wall out, then it's a
No,
room. Yeah,
yeah.
no, I'm just asking the question, you know?
This is across the street,
Yeah,
so what are you gonna hook the septic up to?
I have a septic there.
Is the septic, separate septic for that one?
Well, just, the septic system's brand new. We overhauled the whole system. So there's two H20 tanks right in front of that. So that the lot is actually, show you here.
Yeah, it might have been on the backside of this.
Yeah, septic.
No.
I have it
I
somewhere.
see it somewhere.
Yeah, I have it out there.
Here's the measurements, right there.
No, well, here's measurements, but,
Yeah, but
I
I
thought
have it
that's
with
what he was
septic
looking
on
for.
it.
no, in your folder, you have an actual plot plan that shows.
Right
Yeah.
there. Got it.
Yeah. So that's there, so it's 10 feet in front of the tanks.
Oh, so this one's pumped up to that one?
Yeah, and then it pulls up here. Yeah. So we thought we need to be 10 feet in front of this.
Yeah, you have to be 10 feet away from it.
Yeah, yeah.
20 feet from the side.
Yeah. So the two tanks are, I think they're H20 tanks in that.
I mean, I think you're right, Mike.
My only
It
disagreement
feels
is
like-
the way it's been applied for,
Right.
it'd be asking for storage.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're not mentioning that room up above it, and it could be used as living space, so,
Yeah.
in the way it's designed.
Yeah.
It's just my feeling on it, so.
I mean, there's, you know, your neighbors need to know, should know what's there.
Yeah.
Right now, your application only says a garage.
Yeah, well, if I change the application and come back in again and say I'm looking for the garage, would that, because primarily I need a garage, you know? That's
Well,
really-
that's what I
yeah,
got
yeah,
from the
yeah, yeah.
reading it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that you need the
Yeah.
storage space.
Yeah, because this is, I'm new to all this as well, so.
Sure.
If I may just add a
Sure.
comment. What's in the application is just dimensional variance requests, and that's pursuant to your building commissioner's determination that it was an application for a garage and a hobby media room.
Yeah,
Oh.
So he's not asking for relief as to the use of it, but it's the elephant in the room, right? I mean, the floor
Yeah.
plan looks like the floor plan, and we all know what it looks
Yeah.
like.
yeah,
But what would happen next is, your building commissioner would look at it, if you determine that the use was inconsistent with your zoning requirements, the building permit would still get denied. So if you grant a dimensional variance, it doesn't authorize any additional uses, et cetera. It's not a use variance. It doesn't allow anything you can't already do. So it would still fall back on your building commissioner to make a determination of whether or not it was allowable or not. Now, I think a lot of clarity could be provided if the board takes up the applicant's suggestion to just make that note and change that plan so that it's clear that it's a media room and a garage and nothing else. I imagine, and I think your building commissioner is here and could comment, that would provide some clarity and simplify this
Okay.
quite a bit.
My objection and confusion is that my understanding is that presently there is an empty lot with no structure on it.
yes,
And in essence, and it doesn't meet the building requirements in terms of square footage in the town of Douglas.
Right.
You want to build, and I don't mean this, when I say you, please, I'm not trying to be rude.
Yeah.
Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Collins, you want to construct a building that is, at least the way I look at it, it's more than just a garage. It's a garage with, in essence, an upstairs that has, I believe, a kitchen and a bathroom.
Yeah.
And it is in essence, you know, a home by every understanding that I come to. And it just seems to me, if you wanted to do it in any other part of the town, and you didn't meet the square footage, and you don't have a reason for there to be a variance, I don't understand how I can vote in favor of it.
yeah, I don't understand what you're saying.
I don't understand how you meet the requirements for a variance. And it makes it difficult to me to vote in favor of a variance.
Okay.
So would it be helpful just to sort of restate the standard? It's possible that maybe the applicant isn't familiar, or as familiar as the board. So there needs to be a hardship owing to the shape of the lot, the topography, or the soil conditions. And I think what the board is saying right now is that if you're really looking to get two principal uses, or a use and a half, you know, a home and a home, or a home and an accessory apartment, where's the hardship in that? Isn't
Well-
that really a bonus? So am I misstating kind of your concern, or
Yeah.
that's kind of the
yes,
direction you're
yes.
going in, maybe?
And
So you, in
the
order
square footage of the
to,
lot is rather small, and if you
Yeah.
try to
It
build a
doesn't-
building of a similar nature,
Our zone
I
doesn't
think
meet our zoning.
that
That's
would be
right.
an issue,
Period.
that's all.
Well, what I'm saying, like, if the house that we have is small, so if you wanted to watch a game or something like that, that's the reason that I wanted to do that. As well as having the additional parking to throw a couple of cars in. Because, as I said, I got 6 grandkids, and, you know, in a place that's half the size of this room, it can get very claustrophobic.
No.
You know, they're all under 5 years of age.
Yes.
So, that's another reason as well. Because just the house, there's not enough room in it, that's it. You know, so it's not, I'll just use it for entertaining, and just, like, the kids can watch a movie or stuff like that, but, parking as well, as I said, it's 2 spaces in, the street is small.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you know, it's, there's not enough place there to be having cars all over the place.
Oh, you've got half of a hill you're gonna take down
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Question for Brian.
Mhm.
This is a separate lot from the other lot?
It's been determined to be
Right.
one lot
Right.
by your building commissioner, that it's
What,
held in
both-
common.
Both sides of the street?
Yeah.
Okay. Doesn't matter. I was gonna ask if it needed to be a special permit, because it was a non-conforming lot.
I wonder if now would
No,
be.
so there's no grandfathering because it was held in common ownership. So
Right.
this is December 5th, the letter from your building commissioner, Mike Cafferlin. The lot in question does not meet the dimensional requirements of the Douglas zoning bylaws. In addition, the lot is not grandfathered because it has been held in common ownership. So this isn't an appeal that's before you tonight. So that's the law of this case now. So that's why there's a variance application.
Yep, okay.
Yep.
So maybe now would be a good time to ask if anybody else has any input to this, that's here. Okay, state your name, please.
It's Vicki Sullivan,
Okay.
and I just wanna make sure that, where the lot is, the road is actually 30 feet wide, so I just wanna make sure you're off the road for the building.
Okay.
So, and I brought that in to
Yeah,
Maria.
Mike's got it over here.
Does he have it?
Yeah.
Yep.
And also the size of the building and the fact that they wanna put like a room up top, you know what I mean? That,
Do you live in the area?
yes. Actually, my family owned the whole property for years,
Oh, okay.
for 100 years, generations. So there's a lot of history. And then when you come in, there's already a stick house
Sure.
here, there's a stick house here, and then a huge garage, you know what I mean? But my main concern, I want it off of my road.
Okay.
And I don't know how the Aviance, like, my daughter built a house on 5 acres of land, and they gave, for a 10-foot variance, they gave this department gave all kinds of trouble because the ambiance of the area. So I ended up having to give her 5 acres of land to build one house.
Okay.
So the concern is the area, it's very congested.
Sure.
And he's right, there's no parking, there's absolutely no parking.
Yeah.
But they have an area they can pull in and park. But my main concern, he has it, I wanna make sure it's not on the road. Because I own the road, it's 30 feet wide. You know, they can park on it and all that, but they can't put a building on it.
Sure.
And the septic should be off of it.
This
too,
is
I
set
think.
back quite a bit, so.
Mhm. Yeah, because I know the
think-
hill.
Did you look at the plans? I think the.
No, I
the-
haven't had time.
Okay.
No, I didn't get here, I just came from work, so.
Okay. All right,
But the
so
fact that
that's.
they're gonna, like, you're gonna try to put a room up top too?
Oh, just speak to me, please, and I'll ask
Like a
him.
room up top, like, you know what I mean?
That's what the
Like a
the current plans
It seems like an
show.
apartment.
Yeah. That's what it shows like.
You know, a garage was one thing, but an apartment too is, for the septic reason, if you got a three-bedroom house going into the septic systems.
That's beyond our purview. That would be the Board of Health
Mhm.
to ascertain that
Yeah,
it
right,
has
it would
the
be.
capacity for anything else.
It's a three-bedroom septic system.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? What is your pleasure?
Well, the game's not on. So,
I mean,
Well,
you've heard our concerns.
Yeah, so if I was to change the plans and just make it, knock out that wall and make it a garage, you know, knock out that middle wall, just have it all open.
I'm not sure whether that would be sufficient, to be
Yeah.
honest. I think we're concerned that, you know, the possibility with plumbing and
Yeah.
electric,
Yeah,
that you could very easily turn it into a living space, which wouldn't be allowed.
yeah,
I mean, maybe the best thing for you, if you do have an in-law living with you,
yeah,
is to look for an accessory apartment for your in-law.
yeah, okay.
But, you know, again, we've got the constraints of size and space on your lot. It doesn't hold for building what you want to build.
Whereas the seller used to own next door, which was smaller lot than, there's a 3-story house on it.
I know, but
Yeah.
he didn't have another house towards the water, like you have.
we're not here for the lot next door.
Yeah.
No.
I'm not trying to
no.
be rude or nothing, but
No.
we're not here for the lot
Okay.
next door. I would suggest that, think about what you wanna do before you go any further, because you've already heard some concerns.
Yeah, okay.
From members of the board, and you need everybody sitting at this table to vote in favor of you.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
consider that before you,
Yeah, what's in?
yeah, move.
Louis,
Well, you got an in-law, right?
Yeah.
He's elderly.
There he is there.
Yeah, I know him. He's a nice
Yeah.
guy. Well, so why would he just say he wanted an in-law apartment?
Okay.
They're legal.
Well, no, if that's what you're
Well,
looking for,
yeah.
not trying to guide you,
No.
don't
Yeah.
don't misunderstand.
Not trying to guide you.
I'm just telling you when I made my comments, it's only based
Yeah.
on what I'm looking at on the plans.
Okay.
And it's different than what you
Can I
have.
speak?
Oh,
Sorry.
Yep, we
So
have
if
our
he
building
does,
commissioner.
if he does decide to go for an accessory apartment, a detached one, it's gotta be within 50 feet of the primary residence.
Yeah.
So he's not gonna meet that criteria, so
Okay, thank
that
you.
would also be a,
He hasn't got 50 feet?
he has to be 50
within 50.
feet,
Yeah, he
within
doesn't,
50
he
feet.
doesn't have,
The road is interrupting.
I don't think that you would have it by giving the 30 feet in the road and then whatever his house is set back and bringing the, you would have to grant, correct me if I'm wrong, a
It'd be
variance for
50.
that too,
Be
correct?
51 feet. Be 51
Just did
feet.
it randomly.
Yeah, no, that's what it would be 51 feet.
You have to be within 50.
Yeah.
And your size is 900 square feet, so you'd be plenty, you'd have plenty of, because you're doing what, 24 by 24?
What, for an accessory is 900?
Yeah.
1,000? No.
It's 900, it has to be 900. But you, I mean, as a board, you can grant larger, because this board has granted larger in-law apartments. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Thank you for your input.
No, that's the board's room to make the decision, so.
Okay.
I don't know. It's up to you, but
So what do you think? You want to go away, you want to continue, go away and come back, or go away, make a change, and then do a resubmittal? Or you want to withdraw, you can also withdraw.
or you can move, or you can.
I'm
move
gonna be
forward.
presumptuous, just, you can only file a request, a petition as to a specific issue once every 2 years. So if we, for instance, vote tonight on this.
Yeah.
And you lose,
Yeah.
then you can't come back for another 2 years
Okay.
and make a petition on
Yeah.
this. I don't think I'm speaking to Laurel, though I'm probably doing it simply.
Absent
Or
permission
using-
of the planning
using-
board, yeah.
So, at the moment, in terms of the information that I possess,
Yeah, yeah, I'm
I
gonna say,
I think
okay.
I'm not inclined, I don't see
Yeah.
the basis for a variance.
Yeah,
I just don't see the factors or criteria are met.
okay.
I don't know that if you do want us to vote tonight,
No,
or if you don't want us to vote
I'll come
tonight,
back.
but I just want you to know that if we do vote, it
Yeah, yeah, I
actually
understand.
is,
Yeah, well, that's,
it's, keeps you from coming back for 2 years.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Yeah,
And I apologize, I wasn't-
No, thank you for telling him that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll just make some adjustments then and go back and take it again. So do I have to do a whole new application again? Or can I just amend this?
Should be all amended, no?
Yeah.
Would it have to be, oh, no, because of the way it's.
If he's got, well,
Well, it depends on what you do. I guess you'd have to
Yeah.
talk to Mark about that.
we're not gonna
I think
see
if
it.
you're changing, you have to resubmit, because you have to post that you're trying to do an in-law apartment and not just a garage.
It would have
So
to be something
You would
that,
have to, I would say that, I mean, Brian's there, you'd have to withdraw
Mhm.
and then resubmit.
Okay.
Am I right, Brian?
If that's what he decides to do, then you have to decide what you want to do first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we'll do.
Good. Okay, so are we going to continue then?
Yeah.
Okay, then we need a motion to continue.
I would move that we continue the public hearing to the next scheduled meeting.
March 11th, 7 PM.
All those in favor of continuing the hearing until March 11th at 7?
All right.
Aye.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, sorry for the confusion.
That's all right.
Dermot, can I see you for a minute?
Yeah.
Let me see now. You guys come back, continue, so
This
something
is
new,
giving the
different.
ZBA
That would be new
permission
application,
to
something else.
extend your
So if he
deadline
comes back and
date
wants to withdraw, that's
from
fine. But if he
3/27
comes
to
back and he's
4/27.
just knocking out some walls
Right.
and making,
Giving
you
them
know,
another month.
I
the
see.
fundamental
Today's the
request
12th.
hasn't changed, just
Yeah.
dimensional variances, that's it.
Okay, great, thank
Thank you so much. I
Yep.
just don't want to come out at your next meeting and say, here's my plan for an
No,
accessory
yeah, right,
apartment.
right.
You'll say, well, that's
No,
not
no, no,
noticed.
no.
You can buy it.
Oh,
here,
yeah,
you can
it's
go online.
What do you do?
And make it tomorrow.
Well,
Like that.
You know what I do?
See you, thank you.
Let's try to lower us.
We need to see you if you've got a chance.
I just told him to look at the accessory
Oh, all right.
apartment
Yeah.
criteria that he needs to meet, because it's on.
No, I know, but just in case if he does make changes, he can't go under the same.
Yeah. Feels like it'll rain more and more every day.
See, you know, it's in the time.
Oh, Lord.
Hello? Silence is a virtue.
Well, we have another hearing. Continuation of public hearing for Mr. Kenneth GOUIN, 2019-14 at 29 Laurel Glades. And it looks like we have the same lady here. Thank you for
At least
coming
she-
back to us.
She's smiling this time.
I am smiling this time.
She is.
Well, I get to
She
talk
says,
this
we're
time.
actually gonna do this.
But I just
Give her
remember.
give her
should
just the
tell-
same warning, that's all.
We should
It only
tell
seems
her
fair,
that
that's
there are
all.
only 4 of us here.
Yep.
Did you hear that earlier?
I did not hear it.
Okay.
This- I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, no, no.
No, no.
I don't know.
The board technically consists of 5 members,
Yep.
which
Actually,
means,
6. About 5.
5
sorry.
voting members. Which means that if all of the members, all 5 members are here, you can lose one of us unpleasant, grumpy people, and still carry the day and get the remedy that you want. But because that's not the case, you gotta get the votes from everybody. And if you wanted to continue it to a time when there was the complete amount of voting members present, certainly I don't believe any member of the board would give you a hard time or object, because it gives you the possibility to sway more people and to lose one vote. But again, that's up to you, it's your decision.
So if
But I
we
wanted-
if we present today and continue though, do we still need at least 4 votes?
Yeah, I believe once you start with us, you're stuck
Yeah.
with us, and you're stuck with the 4.
Unless they continue,
Well,
no?
Well,
Yeah,
they
they
would
can-
continue
Because when it
before
was open, all members were technically here.
Right, but they can actually watch, they can watch
Yeah.
this on
Yeah, they can miss up to 1
television.
meeting.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And then come back and
Yeah,
vote
John does
You
that
know
all
all
the
the
time.
rules.
first, somewhat.
So,
So for the record, my name is Kristen Labrie. I'm here on behalf of the applicant Ken GOUIN, who is also present. I'm from Andrews Survey and Engineering. We prepared the plan and submit the application. So the application is for a request for a variance from the side setback. The proposed lot, well, the existing lot is a camp lot on Laurel Glades. It is divided by the road, but it is one lot. The primary dwelling right now is on this side of Laurel Glades towards Witten's Reservoir with accessory shed, 2 accessory sheds. The proposed plan is to raise the 2 accessory sheds, convert the primary dwelling into an accessory shed by removing the plumbing and building a new primary dwelling on the back side of the property.
So,
Follow all that?
when I did follow it, I mean, I might as well bring it up now, rather than later. I'm of the opinion that this needs a special permit.
For, I guess for what reasoning?
Under our bylaws, as, I think I've got it right here. Under. Rules and regulations. Oh, yes, I couldn't remember the numbers, thank you. 3.4.3, non-conforming structures. Board of Appeals may award a special permit to reconstruct, extend, or change a non-conforming structure in accordance with this section only if it determines that such reconstruction isn't substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming structures. Non-conforming single and two-family residential structures may be reconstructed, extended, or structurally changed upon determination by the building inspector that such reconstruction doesn't increase the non-conforming use. In other words, normally what we do is when something is raised or something is changed, we use this bylaw.
So we're not the variance we requested is for a new dwelling. It's not a reconstruction because it
Yeah.
is a new footprint. There's nothing there currently.
Mhm.
And that's what the variance is requested for,
Okay.
is the new dwelling, we're not reconstructing anything. 2 buildings are being raised so currently there's a primary dwelling and 2 accessory
Yeah.
structures.
Uh-huh.
We're proposing that there be 1 primary structure and 1 accessory structure now. So we'd be reducing how much accessory structures
So
there
you're
are.
leaving one primary structure, you're not
We're
raising it,
creating a new primary.
but you can't
dwelling.
have two
No, no,
primaries.
no.
We're not having 2 dwellings. It's 1 dwelling, and then the primary dwelling that is currently will have plumbing removed, and it will turn into an accessory shed.
If I could throw in a comment, the primary dwelling is literally 480 square feet. And
Yeah.
It's not,
Okay, it's not real
it's not
primary?
a real primary dwelling. Nobody lives
Less
there.
in the garage.
It's a camp lot.
Sure.
And if I may, when you're ready, this is an application that we've looked at already after the last time it was
Yeah.
before the board. And I agree, having reviewed it, that variances are required here. So
Okay.
there's a couple of moving parts. One is, with respect to sort of the non-conforming use, the provisions you just read,
Mhm.
it's not really reconstruction.
Great.
It's not really an alteration of an existing structure. So if you go down the list, it doesn't really qualify.
Okay.
What they're really doing is taking the existing principal dwelling and
Which is the,
Decommissioning it.
decommissioning it, and then relocating it to a new structure, a new construction.
Okay.
So we also have a couple of cases from the Supreme Judicial Court. We've got Gale v. Gloucester, and we have the Diedrich v. Chatham case, which said if you're creating new nonconformities, they require a variance. So
Yeah.
even if there were to be an argument that you're sort of transferring grandfathering rights from one existing dwelling to another existing dwelling, you're still creating new nonconformities. So there may be one aspect that you could get away with a special permit for, but overwhelmingly, you're gonna need a variance.
Okay.
which is what
So
our
why
our
not go for the
application
higher
was for.
standard?
Yes. So we did it right the first time.
I just say, it's been discussed.
Yep.
And it was a concern, and it was a concern of mine, so,
And this is an unusual situation.
yeah.
It's not
No, it's
readily
not.
apparent.
Yeah, and-
It
and-
requires explanation,
And
no doubt.
as we stated in the application, the lots on either side of the proposed lot don't have dwellings
That's
on
right, yeah,
that side. So by granting the variance, we're not imposing any dwellings that are too close to each other.
Not right now.
No. but anyone that came back would have to then request a variance as
Right.
well from you,
Yeah.
so,
Okay, I'm sorry, please continue.
that's all I,
Oh,
I have a question.
sure.
What's the width of that building envelope?
it is, I have the floor plans actually with me. I have-
The building for
The building envelope. On-
It is,
No, not the building itself, the building envelope
Oh.
on the lot. You got a dotted line in there.
what we can
Yeah,
fit?
with your setbacks.
They
This
are,
is 28 feet wide is what the house is.
so the side setbacks are 25 feet.
No, I know that.
Oh, so
What's
it's
the
18,
width
so
of your lot?
18 and a half, so you have 18 and a half, 18 and a half,
No,
so.
no. So if you're 25 feet, so what's the width of the building envelope?
Yeah, no, that's, I was trying to figure that out, so if you add up the.
What's the width of the lot?
Yeah, add
I
up the
know,
building
I'm
and
trying to add up
both,
the
and
building
both
and the width,
sides.
So
Yeah.
38 plus 18 and a half plus
Right.
18 and a half.
37,
My mental math is not that great right now.
65 feet wide?
I'm gonna give you nothing instead of guessing.
65 feet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's too dependent on their cell phone.
I'd rather it be right than me guess with mental math.
I was just gonna pass it down to Mike.
No, that's 70. 18 and a
other
half,
question?
18 and a half, and 33 is 70.
It is 33.
Was that 38?
Oh.
No, it's 38. That's okay. So it's 75 feet wide.
It's 30, the house is 30, the proposed house
So
is
the
38.
lot is 75 feet with 25-foot setbacks. That gives you 50, that gives you 25 feet of buildable area.
Right.
So the width inside the setbacks is 25 feet, so. if-
25, yeah, so the
if we
building
fell
envelope's
inside.
25 feet wrong. The reason why I asked that, if the house is, if it was an entrance house instead of a side entrance house.
Still wouldn't
that-
fit.
So,
What's that?
It still wouldn't fit, because the width of the house is 28 feet.
It would be less non-conforming. You would be only missing by 3 feet.
Yes, it'd be less non-conforming, but we're still only asking for, it's like a 4.5-foot relief. Whatever it says in there.
4.5.
No, it's,
6.5,
it's said,
and
it's said in,
13
it's,
feet.
it's written in the application what relief we're looking for. I can't find the application on,
What's that?
6.5 on each side.
the 6.5 feet. Yeah, we're asking for a 6.5-foot relief.
Okay.
sure.
And why are you entitled to a variance?
The 25 feet wide for a home is very narrow. So we're looking for that because of the uses on either side. There is no homes. It wouldn't be impeding on why the side setbacks are resulted. It is an old camp lot, so they are very narrow. It's not based on today's size requirements, lot requirements. And they want to live there. Right now, the dwelling that's there it can be lived in, but it's not big enough to
Just
have.
one at a time.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's,
Honey, I'll leave. Would you cook supper, please?
yeah. So to have a family live there,
Yeah.
it has to be bigger. A bigger footprint needs to be created.
if I can elaborate, the reason why we're going for this is it's my family back there. We just have a 1-year-old granddaughter who I'd like to get to live up the lake and to go up there rather than, downtown here. I've owned the property for 30 years, just using it, as I say, as a summer camp. And I started this whole process because I wanted to grow up at the lake. It's as simple as that. And they can build their dream house up there and I'll be a free boarder. That's the other part of it.
Nice.
Yeah, very should, pardon my French. I'm sorry. But seriously, that's the reason. I'm not trying to break new ground up there. There's, in 30 years, the reservoir. I mean, there's not a conforming lot up there, anywhere. There's been 6 on Laurel Glades alone in the past, since 1990, that have done this exact same thing.
A lot of new houses up there.
Oh, yeah, and they're massive, much bigger than what
Yeah.
we're trying to do. That's why we're here. It'll be another grand job, a long way to deliver.
That's generally what happens
You're
now.
asking for an awful lot.
I know.
You're telling me.
That's why I let them come.
And we are currently going through conservation as well. We've had a meeting with them, and they've asked for some minor changes, but overall, they're happy with it.
How far is it from the lake?
Well, if-
About.
The septic's 110,
Probably 150
Okay.
feet.
Yes.
farther than that, yeah.
Okay, so
It's,
they're not.
there, we're decreasing the footprint,
Mhm.
that's close there, 'cause those are coming down,
Mm.
trees will be replaced.
And you're gonna leave that other building there, though?
I'd like to have something there to put things and, I mean, it's not big enough, I mean, I couldn't even use it for a garage if I wanted
If
to.
they end up with a whole bunch of grandkids, you need a place to hide out.
I got a place for myself, get a place bigger one, to face that scale, you know?
Man cave.
Can I ask
Please.
an additional question? I think in your application, you only identified the southerly setbacks for the new building as what you're seeking relief for. Are you looking for any relief for the existing structures? So once the new primary and principal use becomes the new residential construction, what about the setbacks for the current,
Well, they're already there.
right? But you can't have two grandfathered.
Well, it'd only be one
Structures.
grandfathered, because those are coming down. So it'd only be one grandfathered building.
Right. But now those are non-conforming setbacks. Are you saying that those, I'm just asking for your position, I'm not giving an
So
opinion.
I guess because they're already there and on the,
Existing.
they're pre-existing,
Mhm.
yes, they're still non-conforming.
Right.
So we could certainly ask for permission.
And to state my concern another way is, I mean, they're lawfully pre-existing non-conforming now because you have the existing residential home, but once you sort of claim that benefit for the new home to a certain extent, then I
But
think you can double dip.
the old home is a shed, the old home would then be a shed, per se.
But it's still a non-conforming.
It's still
structure.
If it's so,
It's
we
still
would have
within
to get,
setbacks.
Because it's over, yeah.
Right, and the way frontage is actually,
the frontage is odd because
Defined.
Laurel Glades
Right.
goes through it.
Yeah.
We put our front setback as conservatively for the new primary structure as the edge of the road of Laurel Glades,
Yeah.
not from Witten's Reservoir.
Oh, yeah.
But I guess theoretically, we could put a setback from the edge of the water and put that as a setback to see what you, or would that be the back setback? I guess that's,
well, the way lot frontage is defined, it's the lot line coinciding with the sideline of a street which provides rights of vehicular
Yeah.
access. So I think you're back to Laurel Glades.
Yeah.
And I'm not raising this as an obstacle, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
if you get relief, if the board decides to do that, you want to have complete relief.
Yes.
So let's just make sure everything's sort of
so in that,
inclusive.
but that, I guess that would be a separate application, or could we lump it into, could we amend this and lump it into one? If we did grant, if you wanted to grant relief to us for that, it'd also be a variance.
Right. Right. I think it would be preferable to have that as part of the record. And, I mean, right now, the way it's noticed, I'm sorry,
No,
I'm sort of
I'm
sidetracking
trying to
you and I
think
don't
along
mean
with
to.
you, but go ahead.
The way it's noticed right now is just for the side setback variance, but that may actually be sufficient because, you know, everyone's got the building plan, everyone knows that a variance is
Yeah.
before the board,
Right.
and the purposes of the variance is to
Right.
lawfulize this plan.
Right.
So I don't think there's prejudice to, you know, it's sort of
Could change.
amending it
You're saying add.
retroactively because
right.
this relief is already noticed on the
Right.
plan.
That's right.
So that doesn't bother me that
Okay.
much.
Yeah. So we could,
Another question is the, how old is that place?
1945.
And that predates our zoning, so
Yeah.
how would that come back
then
into play now?
you're right.
Yeah.
Because of change of use?
No, I mean, it's gonna be a conforming use, or it's gonna be a conforming use afterwards. You're allowed to have an accessory shed or building.
Right.
So that, the use isn't the question, it's that right now, and this is what makes it, you know, kind of circular. Right now, you have an existing dwelling,
Yeah.
which is protected because it's a non-conforming use. But once you make a new dwelling, you can't have two, you can't claim the benefit for both of them, so you have to pick one. So once the new house gets the benefit of this relief, then the old house loses it. So we just need to bless that with relief. That's the way to cure it. See what I mean?
Because even though the house was built before zoning, technically if it was built today, it would be, it would have
Correct.
that relief.
Okay.
So once you build a new house, it kind of loses that protection. So we just want to build it back in by granting that relief. And then I think that,
But we
that
can just
completes the
grant that.
circle.
If this gets granted, we could just
You could,
That's right.
provide
could you grant that
relief for
tonight?
that at the same time.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's right. Thank you.
So it would just
Like
be
I said,
verbiage.
I'm not raising it as an obstacle,
No.
like, it's impossible. I just want to make sure that if the board sees fit to grant relief, it grants all the relief necessary
Yep.
to actually do this.
Cover the
Well,
whole-
which would be a good point if a neighbor decided to complain about that being too
Right.
close to the line, then it could
Or-
end up in front of us.
At some point, they'll pull a building permit, come up then,
Yeah.
someone could challenge the building
Yeah.
permit. So we just want to make sure it's complete.
Speaking of other people, is there anyone else here that would like to speak to this request from Mr. GOUIN? No? Okay. We'll continue on our merry way.
I would suggest we not vote or close the public hearing tonight. I have an issue, quite frankly, and it's not directed specifically towards this very kind gentleman and my understandings of what he's trying to accomplish. But this looks like we're trying to take a lot, build an entirely brand-new building on it, and it doesn't anywhere meet the 90,000 square feet requirement. And I don't understand how we can make that exception, when in the past, we've certainly not made that exception. And so I don't know that I'm comfortable voting in favor of a variance.
Are you referring
as
to
the
the lot
standing
size?
fact.
Are you referring to the lot size?
Yes.
But the lot size is, it is existing. It's, so you're saying for them to build a new house, they would have to buy 2 more lots on either side of them to,
All I'm suggesting is that what you've described to date, in my opinion, at least from what I've heard, is that you're going to build an entirely brand-new building on this lot, that if this, that in fact is too small to build here in the town of Douglas.
I
And
would
if you were
say
to
so.
have, and if you were to have that lot in any other part of town, if I was to buy a piece of land that was undeveloped, that was that size, and I would come in and say, I deserve a variance for it, and the argument is, well, why? And it is, well, it's less than 2 acres, but the law here in Douglas, which should probably be changed, I don't agree with it, but the law in Douglas is, it's gotta be 2 acres. I don't see how, considering you're building an entirely brand-new building, you're not doing exactly that same thing.
So first, the lot, I understand today's zoning is the minimum lot size 90,000 square feet. Pre-existing lot, all of the lots on the road are about the same size. They're all these skinny camp lots. There is, you're saying you couldn't build a home. There is an envelope that is buildable. There's a buildable envelope in there. What you would build on that is very small. So we're requesting a variance to just make it slightly wider. We are meeting that back and front setback for the new building. So we are inside that building envelope of something that we could build on it.
What you're calling a building envelope,
Inside the building setbacks
I think
of what's
Mr.
allowable.
Holland is saying, you don't have a building envelope.
Well, there
No,
there
no,
is. There's,
She does have one, that's what I was asking her
It's
about
here.
before,
So-
what width of that was.
if, I guess I can show you. This dashed line
Yeah.
from here,
Sure.
going back to there, that is the building envelope.
Yeah.
We could put a building in there without coming here, because we would no longer be requesting a variance, because we'd fall fully in the setbacks, but to
But
allow
it's not
them,
but it's not 2 acres.
but it's an existing lot. We're not, it's not that he went out and bought a new lot and it's,
I'm sorry, I
no,
don't mean to interrupt,
continue,
but
go.
if we could do sort of a mental exercise.
Focus.
If they were just tearing down the existing house and putting it back up on the same
Right.
footprint,
Right.
it would be easier to understand. It'd be a grandfathered lot, and that would be reconstruction, subject to the provision we
That's
read
right.
earlier.
Yeah.
But those two things aren't happening on the same footprint. but they are decommissioning the existing grandfathered house on a lawful non-conforming lot and then building a new house in another location. So that's why they're arguing, and I don't mean to put words in your
No.
mouth, that they're getting the benefit of the grandfathering undersized lot. So they still get a house at the end of the day on the
Because the
lot.
primary use of the lot is still remaining the same.
Correct. So they're starting with a non-conforming lot, with a
You're thinking
non-conforming
the use-
structure,
you
and they're
gotta
gonna
think of the use
end
of the lot.
with a non-conforming lot and a non-conforming dwelling. So the
Primary
delta
use
doesn't
is still
change.
staying the same.
Right.
If it was an empty lot, I would agree with your
Right.
argument, but because it's an existing lot has a primary use or, primary use as a single-family residence, then all it's doing is relocating. The use of the lot is not changing. It's just the location of the building.
So,
Mark?
so if they,
Oh, the corner.
if they came to me, they were taking down that primary structure.
Right.
And they were gonna put a new house exactly in the envelope and not go past the setbacks, this wouldn't even have came to you. I could, in our bylaws, I can give them the right to build this, because it's a grandfathered lot.
Right.
So they're just transferring the grandfathered part to the house, the non-conforming.
Okay.
And I think that's what Brian was saying earlier. That's
you don't
why
need
we
a 90,000
That's why
square
we need to get relief on the existing structure, because you're taking that grandfathering
right.
it and relocating it elsewhere
right.
on the lot.
It's on the line.
But I'm just suggesting that they in fact do have to come in for a variance. That the issue that seems to be before us is the lot size, because if they can do by right things, then they should certainly do those things by right, and I salute them for it. But here we are creating, in my mind, and I'm not arguing, I'm just pointing out in terms of my vote, that in my mind, what is being done is an entirely new building is being put on a lot that is, as a practical matter, not meet the requirements here in the town of Douglas. I understand that your position is, well, if we were to build it within the envelope, we wouldn't have to come in and request this relief. Fair enough, then you wouldn't have to request a variance. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but the fact that you're asking for a variance to put the building there, that's brand new on a lot that does not meet requirements for any other type of new construction, I find it difficult to vote in favor of your position tonight. And I'm just putting that forward, I'm being as candid as I can be in terms of my position.
No, and I do understand that. I think what I'm just trying to understand is, it isn't, I think that we're seeing differently is, it is an existing non-conforming lot. It is legal as the size that it is. It doesn't need to be 90,000 square feet to build a home on it, which I think is where,
But in essence, what you're doing by taking it outside the building envelope is requiring the variance.
which is why we're requesting it. That's why we're here.
I understand that, but it seems to be that the reason that you're asking for the variance is the square footage of the lot.
So,
But it's no different than what we've done in the past with other lots, that they take down a structure and put up a larger structure.
But, well, I disagree with you on that, because I think that's a special permit. When you have a structure that you're supposed to be building on that area where that structure was before it was taken down or changed or altered. In this instance, it's an entirely brand new
So
building
you
being
think
put
this
up.
should be a special permit and not a variance?
No, I don't think it qualifies for that, because it's not a reconstruction of the existing building, it's a destruction of an entirely brand new building.
Yeah.
so if someone bought a camp lot as it is today, that it's already an existing lot, they're not creating a lot, and it's this size, there's nothing on it, and they wanted to build a house that was slightly bigger than the building envelope, they would come here for a variance, correct?
So I think
I
it got a
don't
special
think
permit in this
they're gonna
particular
rebuild.
case.
No, because it's not a reconstruction, it's an empty lot.
It's
Or
not
completely empty
buildable.
lot. Yeah. We would, I know that we have in the past, in fact, said that, voted to not allow somebody to build under
How do you know
exactly the
that?
circumstances.
How do you know that?
So,
With all due
but
re-
if,
With
but
all due
if,
respect, if I could speak,
His
just drive
head's
down
spinning.
the street. I mean, there is a half a dozen that have done exactly what we're asking to do. That have knocked down camps on the water side
Yeah.
and built on the other side. And the lots are all exactly the same size. They're all about 16,300 square feet.
Mark
Not-
has a comment.
You know,
Mike,
We're not
can I
trying
speak
to-
real quick?
Wait, you have to, hold on, please. I'm gonna ask the building
So
commissioner.
the variance is for the side setback, it's not for the lot size.
Yep,
It's for a setback.
Right.
It's for a setback, it has nothing to do with the lot size.
right,
So I don't
Okay.
understand the,
okay.
sorry,
And
yeah.
your name, please?
Brian Devlin, Ken Gowan, son-in-law.
Oh.
this is the residing party.
Oh,
We
the
get this-
father.
Just kind of reviewing, like, Whiting's Reservoir itself, the watershed district, and all the houses that have been built, there's a lot of small lots that, I mean, you guys can probably attest to it, that variances have been granted to build big, large structures, so.
Don't compare, okay?
I'm not comparing, but. I
Only
mean, it's-
because I don't recall doing any up there, you know, or, you know, being on the, I've been on the board for 10 years, but you're probably correct. But every case is different,
I agree.
so.
I mean, based on the feel of the board, it sounds like we should continue it and wait till all the
Have more
members,
people come.
all the members are present,
If
they
you-
will.
If you have to be guaranteed 4 votes and you're sensing a concern,
we-
you may wanna
I-
consider
Does
continuing
it still
the,
include to the 100-day, 100-day
Yeah,
where
that-
the decision will have to be rendered? If we take it another month?
Well, if you continue it, then you would
It's
have
getting
to
close.
sign a little piece
If,
of paper.
yeah,
to
if you continue it for your purposes.
Yes, we'd have to.
We
You just
continued
sign that
last month,
continuance.
and we didn't sign anything.
No,
I know.
no, from the
So-
100 days.
I
Yeah.
went in and checked this
I-
out,
I
and went onto
agree.
the online
Yep.
uh,
I agree, but we.
rules of town meeting,
Now,
and
do you-
it said we should have signed something and agreed to it, and it should have been
Well,
recorded with the
we
town
didn't,
clerk.
I think we didn't ask you is because.
It didn't exceed the
It
100
was
days.
They could
really
still
our
decide tonight.
Last
issue.
month was very confusing for everybody.
Um,
The
would,
application
would the
came
board,
in
would the
on
board be
December
open,
18th.
What?
The application came in on December 18th, so.
The
there's
end date is like
I guess
March
my second question is, would the board be willing to have, a scheduled meeting and one that's earlier than once a month?
I know Dan is not in favor of that
No.
typically, the chairman of the board.
It doesn't
Got it.
hurt to ask.
Yeah. I don't wanna commit, to
No,
that,
but,
since he's out of town, so. If they're dire circumstances, we did for someone who.
well, I just asked because spring is coming, construction is
Yes,
moving.
it is.
So,
Okay, good, wanna get in line.
that's,
And according to that little groundhog, it's just around the corner.
so we're trying to, because after this, we
Don't
still
look
have
at
to
the
do.
weather after 11 tonight, though, I'll tell you.
We are still going to we are going through conservation currently, and we still have to go
Okay.
through Board of Health, but we're trying
Move
to
forward.
move forward in
Okay.
a month delay, I guess.
So,
100
excuse me,
days
can I
is
ask
March
One
27th.
more question.
Yeah, we better
We'd
get
still
an
follow.
extension.
No,
Last-
March
I mean,
11th will be
last
your next
month-
meeting.
Right, so
Excuse me,
March
can I ask one more
27th.
question?
Sure,
Last
you
month,
may.
the question was special permit or variance when we were here, and they said that we couldn't go forward because we needed town council.
Right, we wanted an
Can
opinion.
I assume, sitting here tonight, that the special permit is not an issue, that what we've done as far as applying for the variance and everything is gonna be what
Seems
it's
to
gonna
be
be going
going,
forward?
yeah.
So that we don't have to start this process
No.
again and do a special permit or whatever.
The members that are not here will review the video tonight, they'll come in and
Yeah.
we'll either have a little talk and
Hopefully, all
vote.
of us will be here and
And a vote will
we'll,
be made.
move forward.
Well, that's up to them. They can't commit that.
They
No.
can't commit a vote will be
No.
made, but no,
Well,
I understand that.
Yeah.
No,
Just
but I mean,
the-
at least let people with different minds and whatever, understand what's going on and.
So that March 27th drop
No,
dead date,
it's-
in theory,
11th.
is still
Oh,
Oh, yes.
As far as
We'd
the
like to have
decision.
you sign, I think, an
Decision.
extension.
100
Yeah.
days for a decision, is
Just
that still in?
makes sense.
The next
That's
meeting is
still-
March
that
11th.
would get extended 30 days, correct?
It'll be
Right.
extended
Yeah,
30 days.
So that would go out 30 days, but
So-
our next meeting is on the 13th,
Maria, do you have that?
I believe.
Form, oh, good.
No,
So
11th
just
is
sign
11th, I
that
think.
form at the.
What's the
with
next
On your
Maria.
agenda, I
Maria?
think it
It
says
is
11th.
March 11th.
March
11th.
11th.
So it'd be
we're
before that
still
100 day.
Yeah,
a Couple weeks before that, Amos.
you're well within the 100 days.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so we want to continue?
Do we wanna
I need a
continue?
motion?
Yeah. Make a motion to continue case number 2019-14.
Second?
Okay, motion been made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I was kinda hesitant.
You
to
say
make a
too.
motion last time I got to go.
Sorry.
All right, thank
You
you.
guys a lot nicer this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This time it was a pleasure.
Oh,
Yes.
Thank you, thank you.
Hey, you walk.
Sign me right away.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it just grants the ZDA another 30-day extension on their decision.
Pretty bad, I think so.
And do I ask him many times that? He says he doesn't know. It's a mystery. Actually, he names that fellow. See him, Maria? He says it all comes down to.
Oh, you got the big one. Ah, nice. Hey, nut.
Hello, Marcus. How you doing, buddy? Yeah.
Winter time?
Yeah. You know, or something different. July. No. Oh, you mean in high school?
Bill, come on out.
He's a little warm in here.
Still sweating.
Okay, so it's 8 o'clock. And I think what we had on, I got a letter. We got letters. There used to be a song, we got letters, something like that. Jackie Gleason show, anybody remember?
See you singing.
So I think they'll have our engineer explain some of the letters that are going back and forth
Sure.
and some of the concerns that have cropped up.
Okay, so, in your packet, you received a letter from the applicant going over some concerns they had over the turnaround time on occupancy permits being signed off on. So I did put together a response letter to that letter detailing the chronology and the authority that's given under the comp permit for reviewing requests for occupancies and determining whether or not certain things have been completed during that review. So I work with the building commissioner closely, and as you know, I represent the board in my review.
Right.
And generally speaking, the two, we're into phase 2 of the project now. The two buildings that were raised in the applicant's letter, the first 2 units, there was review and determination on proper construction, testing and installation of the water and sewer line and infrastructure, road and drainage, before that occupancy permit could be signed off on. So that was the delay associated with that. It was not due to the town, it was due to information that was not presented to the town. And then the second group of one building with 2 units had to do with a question on the location of the setback from the road. In my letter, you'll see some attachments, there's some figures attached there. In one of the figures, you'll notice, and I'm not sure if you have a color copy or not, but,
The board should.
okay, so there's one with a clouded area. It looks like this, and it shows setback lines. This is from the original approved comp permit, okay, and it shows 2 groups of setbacks. So basically, it has an open space area written here on the figure. Okay, so you'll see there's that's the main access road.
Did you get it?
Say open space at the bottom.
This is the comp permit area. So there's two areas where setbacks are called for on the plan. On the outside of the loop, the project has a loop road.
Right.
On the outside edge of the loop, there's a 20-foot pavement setback called out. On the inside loop, there's a 26-foot sidewalk setback called out. And what we've been holding, both through the design process and through the construction to date, is those setbacks for the structure. So when the permit application came in, it came in with actually incorrect building footprints. So we were unclear that those were in fact accurate locations. So we raised question, I communicated with the engineer, asked for the AutoCAD file. Unfortunately, my version is a little old and we couldn't open the files. So I did ask that they present it in a paper format. They did so eventually, and you'll see, I think it's on, I apologize for all the pages, but you'll see the variation in between units. So I'm looking at one that shows a 32.7 foot distance between unit 67 and 66. Looks like this. Okay. Now, I want you to look at the perimeter of the buildings. There's no setback line shown on this. So we went through several iterations, and that's why there's so many pages here.
Okay.
Okay, the pages are representing the number of iterations back and forth. It's not that we hadn't contacted the applicant, it's not that we haven't communicated what the concern was. The concern was voiced. We went through several iterations, and we eventually ended up with a plan that showed this, okay? And it has dimensions from the road, and you'll see there's 26 feet plus or minus for unit 68, unit 67, 27 feet for unit 66, and 26 feet for unit 65. So, you know, the building commissioner went out and actually measured one of these distances and found that it was 25.5 feet from the pavement. And then there's evidence that the actual asphalt was cut back a half a foot to gain the 26 feet. So there's a lot of information that's raising question from my office. Okay, starting with what is the setback? Is the board intending that as a building setback? If they are, there's evidence that they're either at the setback or within that setback. Okay. Just because they cut back the asphalt doesn't move the setback line. I would think the road width is probably reduced if they cut back the asphalt. So the road would probably no longer meet spec. And these are things that would need to be checked then. So the questions, I guess, that we're boiling this down to are a few things. Number one, what is the intent of that setback line? It doesn't say building setback on the approved plan. It doesn't say parking setback. It just says setback. I recall when the plans were being developed, I had a conversation with the board and the engineer, and it was intended as a building setback. That's my recollection. With regard to, you'll notice on this last sheet that I referenced, this one, where it shows an actual dimension to the edge of the road. There's some, on unit 67 and 68, there's some labels of a rectangle with a P. And those are in fact porches that have been constructed on that unit. So the question is, those lie within that setback. So if it's a structure setback, then that would lie within the structure setback, regardless of where the foundation is. With further, at one point in time previously, you may recall, there was a revision in the building footprints and the building styles. The original comp permit had a certain square footage, and it showed a particular one style of building throughout the project, and it had a certain square footage and a certain building footprint. The buildings that were being constructed were increased in size. I think it was 5 feet bump out in the back. The board authorized that change. And During that time frame, a series of drawings were produced for the 3 different styles of buildings that were proposed, and were called Villager, Villager 1, and Villager 2. And I think the 1 and 2 refer to the number of garage bays. The Villager 1 is the style of unit that has this porch that's being constructed. However, when the plans for that unit were presented to the board, it didn't show this porch. All the plan view presentations that we've seen to date do not show this porch. And as I indicated, this porch lies entirely within the setback. So this was discovered recently during one of the recent occupancy permit requests. This is what's caused the back and forth over a couple of weeks, really 2 weeks. And I'm looking for guidance from the board on this, as I'm sure the applicant is. And the final thing I want to raise and get input from the board, if you look at, there should be a color drawing of the site on the last page. I have a black and white version, but it should be color in your packet. It looks like this. The affordable units are outlined in red. You'll notice all of the affordable units are the same style of unit. And I'm kind of looking to town council for some clarity on this, but I believe the way the statute reads, they're supposed to be indistinguishable and representative of the mix of units within the project. And I'm wondering if they're all consistently one style of unit. Is that consistent with the requirements of the statute? Or should we have a representative mix of the different styles of units amongst the affordable units? So those are my questions.
Well, that's easy.
Where do you want to start?
So we have porches that weren't in the plans, and so, and I remember when the styles changed, and it was due to what was more desirable. I think that was what was talked about.
The increase of the square footage.
Yeah. Maybe you start at the basic, on what was meant by the setback. No?
May I?
Oh, sure.
This is the first we've seen Bill's letter, so we're kind of going through it. We have submitted a bunch of as-bills, but I think it's important maybe just to look at what was initially approved, because most of the board, I think with the exception of Pam, weren't here when the project was approved, and Pam, I think you were willing at the end for the vote, basically. So not too much in terms of the discussions, but I think this is probably the best plan to show what we're talking about tonight.
And that's drawn in back in when?
This is
2009.
These are the approved plans.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a condominium layout plan. And what this is a condominium site plan, okay, with a boulevard type road that comes into the site. And again, as described in the permit, it says the project will rely on a single access boulevard type road way from North Road to the looping driveway on which the townhouses are situated. So that's this.
Right.
So this is the roadway. This is intended basically as a private drive, okay? When we were getting permitted, there were a couple issues that came up. One of them was obviously parking. And the permit says, as shown on the plan, the condominiums in the project will be served by 248 parking spaces. Those parking spaces are achieved by virtue of the garage and then the parking area
In the front.
in front. And so the notation that was put on the plan says 20-foot pavement setback. Okay, and then on this side it says 26-foot pavement setback. The reason it was put on was to show that there was a parking length. Parking spaces in Douglas have to be at least 18 feet long.
Okay.
So that's how the 20-foot pavement setback was put on the plan. It was not intended to be a building setback. It's 26 feet on one side, 20 feet on the other. The difference is, on the 26-foot side, there is a sidewalk and a grass strip. So in order to have the parking on that side, in front of the garage, you need the 26 feet. So that's why those two measurements, that's how those two measurements came about. They were never intended to be a building setback.
Or any zoning type of setback.
Or any zoning, well, obviously not a zoning setback, because this is not a subdivision road. So
There's no rights of ways, there's no lot
There's no
lines.
rights of ways, there's no.
Oh, I'm sorry,
I'm sorry.
Mark Allen,
I'm
Engineering.
sorry, Mark Allen.
I'm sorry.
No, you're just talking and.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Somebody's gonna take minutes and then who's piping up,
I'm
so.
sorry. Mark Allen, he's our engineer, Mike Labby, our prior engineer, died. Mark is taking it over.
Good.
So,
Well, before he takes it over, I got a question for you.
okay.
When you first started, you said there was 248 parking spaces.
Yes,
How many units are there?
124.
124. So you double that. So two parking places, one inside the garage and one outside the garage?
Correct.
But when I drove up there, there's parking in front of these porches.
Right, when we put the porch on, well, there's also parking.
There's a double spot in front of the units.
Right. Yeah, we actually have increased the parking because we've increased the garages. The plan that the change in the plans that we did 2 years ago.
With the 5
changed-
feet extra?
Right, but more importantly, it changed it from 1-car garages to 2-car garages.
But we didn't talk about increasing the parking from 248 to 372.
No, but I'm not sure that requires approval to provide more parking.
I took a ride through there this week, and I think it was on phase one I was coming up. In the car that was parked in front, half of the sidewalk was blocked by the car. In phase two, one of your units that's being built, the white van that's parked in front of the porch, his front tires were in the street because he didn't fit in there. So I think it would be a valid concern that if you're gonna add parking, additional parking, and you put them in front of the porch, that you're not counting the porch as part of the setback, you're pushing everything out into the street. That's just my observation when I went in there, and that's why I raised this question after you specifically said 248 were approved.
Well, there is, yes, those units are 1-car garage, okay? So there's a 1-car space, right?
Yeah.
But in order for basically cosmetic purposes, so they're consistent, because most of the buildings are the 2-car garages. And the pavement area is wider for the 2 cars. Okay?
I get your logic in that, but
So-
what you said at the beginning is your permit was for 248 spaces. One inside the garage and one outside the garage. That's
Yeah.
what you had said at the beginning.
Right.
Now you're saying that for cosmetically, you want to add another one. Unfortunately, your porch is pushing you out in the street. That's what my concern is.
There's not enough room for that, that.
Well,
Unless you're gonna give them smart cars to go in.
well, unless it's a compact car, because the compact car space in Douglas is 16.
I can go out and get my phone, and that was a pretty small compact car that was blocking half the sidewalk.
Yeah, well, again, we didn't think the board would have a problem with us providing more parking. Because
If
as I
it
recall,
encroaches
That's
into
not
the
the
street,
point.
I personally would.
Yeah.
well, yeah, so,
Because the sidewalk is a means of foot traffic, right?
right,
So we shouldn't block that.
okay.
But the porches that were not shown on the plans that were submitted to the board previously, I mean, this wouldn't be an issue if the porches weren't there, because you'd have that 5 or 6 extra feet.
That's right.
No, you wouldn't, because it,
You have to walk out,
no,
you have to walk out of
you
the
still
unit.
have a stoop that's coming outside, so, when I looked at it, you had, the plan showed a front stoop with 2 stairs going off to the right. Now he has a front porch with stairs going off to the left, but the projection isn't much greater than what the stoop would have been. So maybe it's a foot or so more, but by adding that parking in front of the porch is what's, or stoop, whatever it happens to be there, you gotta have egress outside your door. That's what's pushing you out into the street. That's what my concern is over this whole thing. Not that you have a porch or don't have a porch. As far as the setback, whether it's a setback or not, I have no idea how this particular thing works with the setback line. And then that would go back to the commissioner, whether or not the foundation is your setback point, or is the projection of the front porch your setback line?
Well, no, the setback point is the pavement.
Yeah.
To what? To what though, Ed? Is what I'm
To
saying.
the 20 feet, because it says
20 feet to what though?
pavement setback, setback from the pavement.
But the issue becomes with that concept
From
is, the road width is a specified width, it's 24 feet.
Mhm.
It's centered on a baseline in the center of the road, so 12 feet on each side, and then plus the sidewalk on one side. If you carve out a half a foot of that road, you're decreasing the width of the road,
Something,
clearly.
Well,
Yeah.
again, you wanna?
Yeah, just Mark Allen
Yeah,
again,
let-
Allen Engineering.
We're paying for it,
Hopping
might
up
as
and
well
down.
get some,
Get some
something.
FaceTime. So this, as again, I'm coming in phase 2, phase 1 has already been completed. I think there's 24, 26,
26, I can't remember.
26.
26
26,
units as part of phase 1. Researching all of my plans and files that I took over from Heritage Design Group, this level of detail hadn't been provided to this board. We've never done, I haven't seen any as-built done this tightly. No porticos have been shown. The units have all been the same from phase 1 to phase 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, not for lack of asking, okay?
Right, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
this is all new to us after 26 units, 28 units down the road. So when this issue came up, and Bill mentioned something about pavement setback lines, in their quest to get occupancy permits for the next 2, their thinking was, we have room to shift it, by half a foot, because we can pick it up on the other side, because there's more than enough room on the other side. In hindsight, I think that the real issue is, let's see what this board's jurisdiction is as far as setbacks go. I think that the way it needs to be resolved is the baseline stays, the 24 feet stays, and we resolve the lack of a building setback requirement whatsoever. It's our opinion that this is a condominium project A that has no rights of ways. It has no sideline property lines. It has a perimeter. Every condominium project that we've ever worked on shows ties to the perimeter, 50, 60 acres that you're on, and you're required by the statute to pull in dimensions to the foundation from the perimeter, because there are no rights of ways.
Are you doing that here?
Absolutely.
You're pulling in distances
From the perimeter. Correct.
I
Moving
haven't
forward.
seen that at all.
Moving forward, like I say, I'm picking up from phase 2. That's what the statute says. There are, everything on the ground outside of what the people own, they own from the studs in. They don't own anything else. They don't have property lines.
Correct.
The only dimensional requirement that a comprehensive permit has is 8 units per acre. Period.
Well, this is a 40B, and there's an MOU also that's involved.
Correct, so-
As long as what you're saying
Absolutely.
matches with the legal document that
Correct.
you
So
signed at
what
the
this is
beginning.
governed by is the 40B comprehensive permit,
Mhm.
and whatever conditions those that come with that comprehensive permit. In that comprehensive permit, it specifically states that these buildings do not conform to zoning. It's one of the things that I've read in the comp permit. And that the dimensional requirement table is out the window. So, it basically comes down to what was agreed upon to where the buildings were. To me, from what I'm reading, is that it needs adequate space to park cars on both sides of the street.
Sure.
No,
With safety and,
no
thinking of
zoning bylaw in
safety,
the state would
et
say that one side of the street gets 20, the other gets 26. That's just silly.
Unless there's a sidewalk.
So, the other setback dimensions that Bill has requested is building to building, which again, it was, I think, reading my notes, was basically due to fire
Correct.
codes and whatnot, and I think that got all resolved in and of itself.
I mean, I haven't had an issue with that The question I have has to do with the setback from the road as called for on the approved plan.
Right.
And, you know, number one from the foundation, number two from those porches that were not shown on the approved plans.
Mhm. And I think what Ed's position is, our position is, they need to provide adequate parking for every unit. And I think maybe the parking does need to be looked at as opposed to a setback distance. It's just.
Not only a setback distance, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. But what you were approved for 248 spots.
Mhm.
And you put a plan in front of me that shows a driveway in front of a garage unit, does not show it in front of a porch. It's the same thing right here.
Mhm.
It shows a porch off to the side, here's a driveway next to it.
Mhm.
There's an as-built dated this year.
Yeah.
Doesn't show parking there. Doesn't show parking in front of the porch.
Right.
And that's what my issue is.
Gotcha, sure.
If the vehicle is projecting out into the right of way
Sure.
for the,
And
Now,
for the people that are there.
can I just elaborate? Can I
Yeah.
jump in? The series of figures in the back of the letter that I issued, the only one that's from this original, there's one sheet that's this original plan that shows the setback line. All the remaining ones, and you'll notice, I want you to pay particular attention to the building footprints as they're shown on those plans. Those are all recent submittals.
Right.
Yeah, I
And
can
you'll
see
see the
the
very
dates down
wide
there.
variation in the building footprints that are shown on these plans for the same units. Okay?
Right, which we, I think, or they came before you 2 years ago and showed you those changes. So what Bill has asked for our as-bills.
No, this is for these current building permits, we got plans that are not reflective of what was constructed.
No, that's not true.
That is true.
Mark, show me, where?
Building application.
They're
form.
attached to my letter.
Yeah, they.
Chairman, while they look, can I just ask a question? There's a condominium association?
Yes.
Absolutely.
What's it called?
North
Yeah.
Village condominium.
Yeah, it's
Right.
yeah,
Right here.
first one.
Okay, we got this on February 11th to 20. This one, these are not reflective of what's been constructed. Any of them.
What, in what respect? I'm sorry, which building are you talking about?
Talking about all the buildings.
Oh,
Those have, that's not, well, I would say probably this one is, this one I think is the.
I'll show you the
one-
current, the most recent one, which varies wildly from this. This is the current one.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, this is a rectangle, the
Yeah.
other one's not. Look at the chimney bump outs,
Totally different.
Yeah.
right there. That's nothing like that.
Tim Barlow, general contractor. Can I answer the question for you?
Sure.
This right here, the rectangle shaped one,
Yeah.
that's a Villager 1
Yes.
with the porches in the front. The one with the jog in the front, that's a Villager 2 with the 2-car garage. Those are the only 2 units that are being built in North Village. When the as-built prior to this was submitted, it had been plotted wrong. It showed a Villager 2 instead of a Villager 1. Mark had picked it up, it's got the wrong foundation on it, and then we provided him with the correct one.
Right.
And on our end,
And I agree,
So it
Mark's
was a-
showing accurate
It was a
information, I'm not
misplot
disputing that.
that was done from the Villager 1 to the Villager 2.
right, and we've gone out multiple times.
But this
and-
plays into, you know, the back and forth that we've had.
Yeah, yeah. But I also want to kind of focus on the comprehensive permit, and not, I'm sorry, not the condominium docs that get recorded at the closing. So these interim as-bills are, according to the comp permit, reviewed for the majority of infrastructure, sewer, water, gas, drainage, power. And it says that obviously the town engineer, you know, needs to see all that stuff, and we've been providing him all of the detailed partial as-built as we go. We've now gone into the condominium world a bit, so we didn't feel as if we needed every deck, overhang, downspout, blade of grass on the plans for the infrastructure of the as-built of the road. Now that we've been talking, we're adding those and going in. So the morphing of the plans has a little bit of that in it as well.
Okay, to that point, and this is where we lose a little by switching engineers throughout the
Correct.
project. During the permitting process, and if Jay was here, he would speak to it as well, one of the critical points was the distance between the decks on adjacent units. And that's where some of our setbacks between the units became important. I want to, particularly at the road intersections when you have deck
corners.
to deck, yeah. So that's why we need them shown.
Okay. And
So
again,
when did you take over this project?
I would say Mike passed away in October. We had a deal probably in January-ish. It was just, I think his phase 2 was starting to get underway.
Well, December, I think, is when.
Is it
started.
December?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's when you started doing the as-built.
Right. But I mean, Mike, long story short, Mike's passing forced that company to close. And
Sure.
But I think tonight, like Bill's asking the board, and maybe the attorney and the building inspector, just to recognize that these aren't zoning setback variances, as was indicated to maybe a possible buyer that scared the pants off him. This is just condominium construction, roadway as-built, and with the intent of the comp permit to provide adequate parking on the site. And it's never been a property line issue or setback issue per zoning, as this is A, a condominium project with no lot lines, and B, a 40B that supersedes zoning and strictly goes to whatever the conditions of the approval of the comp permit were.
Madam Chair, it is shown on the plan. There is a notation that says setback.
Pavement.
It says setback.
It's just pavement.
Come here.
No, I have the one right here. But you
You
keep,
have to look-
I'm
you have
just
to
getting
look
a
at
little
the-
confused because we're talking about a couple of things at the same time. You're talking about condominium documents, zoning requirements, and you're also talking about compliance with the approved plan. So, no question that zoning is applying here, it's a 40B, we've already gotten past that. We're not talking about condominium documents, but we are talking about compliance with the approved plan,
Mhm.
and that's a notation on the plan. So if there has to be a 20-foot setback as shown on the plan, you can't convert that sort of conceptually and say, well, that just means adequate parking, because it doesn't say provide adequate parking, it says provide a
It says
setback.
pavement
No, it
setback.
says- If you look at the plan, okay?
It
It's
says
setback from the pavement, not.
20-foot
setback.
pavement
setback.
setback. Doesn't say buildings.
Pavement setback.
It
So,
says
so
pavement
setback.
setback.
in lies, what is the pavement setback to?
Either
I
way.
asked you
The
that
chimney?
question earlier.
The chimney?
No, I asked you that question earlier.
The detention
Nobody answered
basement?
it.
It's a pavement
The-
setback.
But
Well-
you don't get to, I guess this is the problem I'm having with it.
Sure.
Definition.
If it's
You
a,
don't- But you don't get to disqualify it as a requirement by saying it's not a setback to anything, it just means adequate parking, therefore we can sort of morph it the way
well, no,
you're morphing
but it
I mean,
raises,
it is a specific foot measurement requirement.
yes,
So how are you reflecting that on the construction when you
If-
apply to Mr. Kenneth?
if you, okay. The question about the encroachment, the claimed encroachment on that one building is on a corner of the building, okay? To say it's 26-foot pavement setback and refer to the fact that it deals with parking, then you're looking at a different portion of the building. You're not looking at the entire building. You're looking at the pavement portion of the building to provide the 20-foot parking space. So that's the difference.
And all of the units have their driveways in the center of the units.
The half a foot encroachment was on the corner.
Of the
This-
building, not the
yes,
parking area.
Not the
Correct.
parking
Right.
area.
And
Correct,
that's a
correct.
porch.
But
The porch
that's-
is entirely within
Well, the
that.
porch is.
Right. So that's
How-
another.
However, the porch, under Douglas zoning bylaw, the definition of building doesn't include porches.
But aren't we also
But
saying
aren't the
to?
zoning bylaws out the window at this
Yes,
point?
that's what I'm trying to say.
But
You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Well, that's
how
what
are you gonna describe
The
building?
approved plan is now the zoning for this project.
Correct.
Correct.
So this is the zoning, and we're all looking at it. So we don't need to talk about the
And
zoning bylaw.
regardless, the determination by this board was based on a number of drawings that were submitted a number of months ago that did not include these porches.
Right.
Okay, so where the porches came from, I have no idea.
But regardless, even with the porches are there, okay? regardless of all that, even with the stuff submitted now, it doesn't show parking in front of the porch.
Again.
And again, we'll pick it up as we go. We didn't
No, no,
anticipate
no,
it
no,
as
that's
a,
not, I'm not looking to pick it up as we go. I want to address the fact that the vehicles go out into the street or across the sidewalk.
right, and I think that's another issue, absolutely. But I think
Another
first we gotta
issue-
nail,
another
I think
issue when-
first we gotta get over
Are you
the
suggesting that there
setback.
needs to be an application to show that modification? If that's the way things are gonna be constructed? I mean, I
Well-
don't wanna mischaracterize your question.
No,
but
no,
is that-
no. Ed started off explaining this, and he said that the agreement said 248 spots, one inside the garage and one outside the garage. But now we have
Modification.
3 vehicles parking, and where these porches are. And because of the porch, or the stoop, whatever happens to be there, because the stoop was there originally, so, even though the porch is on there, I'm not necessarily understanding if it's bigger than what that stoop was, because I don't know what the dimension of that was, but the added parking in front of it is creating an issue, and from what I see when I went up there.
Well, two things. The pavement was put over there for cosmetic purposes, so that the pavement looked uniform from building to building, from the 2-car garages to the 1-car garage. And we didn't think anyone would have objection to providing additional parking.
Can
However,
I just ask you
if-
one question about that?
If that's a concern for you,
Is
we
there a
can
garage,
eliminate it.
is there a garage door on the porch?
No.
All right, so your pavement going in front of the porch
Right.
has nothing to do with the 2-car. No, I'm not
Yeah.
trying to
No,
give
no,
you a
no.
hard time, but you're
That's
you're
fine.
giving me an argument about the garage.
No,
and
I'm just trying
asking
to
about
explain
it.
why we did it. If the consensus of this board is you don't want any pavement in front of the porches, fine, we won't put it in.
I don't care if there's pavement there as long as the vehicle fits, but the vehicle doesn't fit.
Tim Barlow, the paving in front of the porches is also for access to be able to get out of your vehicle. It's not necessarily a parking spot. And the 248 original spaces was a minimum, not a only allowed. And the porches, when we first went over and we came in to have the plans approved, the 2 new designs, it's on record and it's in the minutes, I discussed the porches. Because Pam had noticed when she drove out there, because in phase 1, the porches are built and have occupancy and have residents living in them. And Pam noticed there were porches and asked me, well, these, the units you're building and the plans I have, it doesn't show the porch. And I described, yes, we're adding front covered stoops.
I don't
Okay.
recall that, but.
But it is in the minutes, and
Okay.
please,
I believe
Neil knows. that-
Neil
that-
knows.
Yeah, well, he can
Neil, he's
provide. you-
pointing at you.
Yeah, he can provide the board with the date of when that was discussed. So it's not that we're trying to provide an additional parking space in front of
So
it.
you can get out of the
But it's so
vehicle.
you can get in and out of the vehicle.
How
There's
wide,
more
how
pavement.
wide is that adequate space?
8 feet. But on one side of the road, it is, a compact space is, and it's in the Douglas regs, and I'm not trying to pick and choose, but a compact car space is 8 by 16.
Well, I guess I would need clarification whether or not increasing the number of approved spaces is an amendment to the agreement, or is that just something that you can put in there if you choose to make it cosmetically suitable?
In front of you tonight, though.
The spaces, the 2-car garage was added with the original plan change, and that alone increased the parking spaces.
Oh, well, those
And
2-car garages, you have room in front of those 2-car
Yes,
garages
there's
for
now
2 people
four-
also.
Now there's 4
4 per unit.
4 per unit. And the goal was to add more parking,
Mhm.
which I don't think is a detriment to the project. I think
Oh.
that's an asset.
Aesthetically, it may not be.
Can we excuse from
pleasant to look at
that?
all that concrete. I'm sorry, yes, you
Can we
may.
excuse from that?
But you can't have approve a 2-car plan and not expect to have an
Pavement in front of
additional
the van.
parking space. I think that would be approved, the parking space is approved as the plan's approved, the additional parking.
But these changes weren't part of that approval. That's the
Which
thing.
changes?
So-
Which changes?
So now, if you're gonna add the pavement, and if you're gonna expand it out next to the porch, why isn't that shown on an approved?
That
change?
would be only on the one-car, the Villager one, the
Right.
one-car design.
But that,
Now, the
that could
design
be a
changes,
change that this
we've been
board could review and
floating
approve.
which unit we're building, depending upon customer choices. So it's not set where each unit is being constructed.
Right.
No, I understand that, and your monitoring agent, I'm sure, is figuring out that with you, but, if you're gonna change that configuration, just like you did when you went from 1 to 2, garages, why wouldn't that be part of an application to this board so that they could review it for adequacy and make sure there weren't any travel concerns for pedestrians, street traffic, et cetera, so that it could be part of the approved plan now? Then there wouldn't be this disconnect between what Mr. Kenneth is seeing and what you're applying for, because you'd have a plan set that reflected it.
So, my understanding of what you're saying is, what you're referring to is just the one-car garage unit with the additional 8 feet of parking, or the additional 8 feet of pavement that's in front of the porches.
And the porches.
And the
And
porch,
the porches,
yeah.
the porches, well, they were built
Because that could
during,
all be shown, and
but they
then
were, we can show them.
we connect
And
those
we
dots.
built them during
Yeah, we
phase
did show
one.
'em on the
But
last as-built.
they haven't been shown on any as-bills, even in phase 1 as-bills. I
Well,
mean,
we haven't been asked until now to
They're
provide
showing us.
decks and porches on the as-built. And
It's
it's
very
really
nice.
the front stoop, it's
It's very
not
nice.
a
Yeah.
covered, enclosed area. It's the front stoop to the house to make it aesthetically the same as a Villager to.
I'll be honest with you, I took a ride up there yesterday, and I saw the stoop, or the porch, in phase 1, and I went, that didn't used to be there.
Even the building
I was
permit
shocked.
applications
Well,
do
they
not
had-
reflect the porch.
The porches,
They
right.
had to be there, we
Well,
received documents.
I believe you,
Yeah.
I just don't
So
recall seeing
from our
them.
point of view,
I've
and
been up there a
now
couple
I'm
times.
perplexed, but we have no problem coming in and asking for a mod, is that I was under the assumption that it was approved because it was built throughout phase 1 with no objections.
Right.
We just noticed it
Right.
at the most recent as-bills.
And
Well,
I
the
just,
people were driving in and
go
out
up.
there, how could you not notice it?
Mark's been in there.
The
Mark
building
Mark
inspector-
issued the occupancy permit for the last one
I've
that we
had
did.
4 building inspectors since the beginning of this project, and it's just being noticed now.
But
So I have no problem.
So
It
you,
was.
so you submit plans without the porch, is that
It's
what
a
you
front
do?
stoop. It's a
So-
front
so
stoop.
let's call it a
How are
front
you-
stoop.
How are you supposed to get into the front door? It doesn't show stairs on the plans. This is how you enter the unit. It's the front entryway.
Let's see,
You
it's
have
What's
a
the
front door,
dimensions of it?
that's not a huge
I see what you're
car.
saying, it blocks the-
4 by 12.
4 by 12 front stoop.
On the sidewalk.
It blocks the sidewalk, yeah. You want to see that?
Not really.
I think-
Many of you.
I'm sorry, I missed the same, I apologize.
How many units are there? 50,000?
I'll hand it to you
Yeah.
next, because it's only fair, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. This is your camera, so I feel a little strange giving it to other people.
That's what I'm talking about, is as far as, you can see the cars right up to the bush. And the bump is halfway across the sidewalk.
Yeah,
That's
but
what my
that's,
concern is. That is what?
that's not a big boat either. It looks like a fairly
But that's in
compact
front
car.
of the, that's not in front of the garage, that's in front of the
That's in
stoop.
front of the access out of
Yes.
the car.
But that's where you've got the
8-foot access.
pavement,
Yeah.
But
which
it's a
is what we're
parking spot.
talking about.
Right, so if I could just kind of summarize that
Well,
point, I think that's
the
a.
bush is not in front of the car. The bush is not in front of the car. You could pull that car further forward,
Okay. But the point is, they didn't.
but they didn't, yes, I understand. And sometimes they park in the road.
So what would
But
you
if
suggest?
if
a
that's the concern,
modification
if the
for
concern
the
is
Wait,
that,
wait,
that,
one person at a time. Are you finished, or do you want to
Well,
relinquish
yeah,
the
you can
floor?
if the concern is that part of the pavement in front of the porch, we can eliminate, or we can file a request for a modification of the permit for that. Either way is fine with us, but it was constructed in phase 1 that way.
So are there plans for any other designs?
No, not at the,
You
Not at
reached
this
your
time.
limit?
not at, oh, well.
You're not gonna have a dream one night and say, I've got an idea?
No, the market's showing that the plans we have now are adequate.
What's the square footage of the ones with the porches?
1650.
And then that change, that's with the two car garages, what's the difference?
25 or 30 square feet.
Oh. 25 or 30,
Yes.
okay.
So much, yeah.
Yeah, I think the two-car is 1610, 1605, something like that.
They don't count that's living space, correct?
Or it doesn't count the basement.
Yeah, that's what I was
No, it
looking
doesn't count the
for.
basement, but that's
that's-
to the exterior wall.
That includes the garage space?
No, it does not
That's
include
what
the
I'm
garage
getting at.
space, yeah,
So
but it's measured
That's
to
where
the
she's getting
exterior wall.
confused,
It
just
looks
because
bigger,
adding
but,
a
yeah.
bay and she's like 30
Right.
feet.
Yeah,
No,
Yeah,
that's
okay.
living space.
okay.
So, we're happy to file whatever you want in terms of the modification. We have some, we have 2 unit owners for 65 and 66 that were ready to go when the unit was completed over 2 weeks ago, and are still ready to go. And so we need to get those occupancy permits issued. Those are not, that's not a building with a porch. So we will, we would like
The setback, the
those
building
to,
setback is
we would
the
like those
question.
to get issued. We'll do whatever you want in terms of the buildings with the porch.
Handstand right now.
I don't know how you could do that.
So, I mean, I think we do need to get the setback thing straightened out. And you know, I mean, to me, it seems like we're talking setback from nothing or setback from something.
Right, and-
Setback from something would be the house.
Right, and so what we've gone under the assumption, and they've gone under the assumption for the first 26 units was their discussions with going through permitting, that it was for adequate parking, 26 on one side, 20 on the other. And where the driveways are, that's what the setback, 20-foot and 26-foot pavement setback line was put on the plans for. It was never meant to be a zoning building porch.
Well,
Yeah.
with all due respect, Mark, you weren't here when that discussion occurred. I had that discussion with Paul Hutnack
Yep.
during the permitting, and that's why it got shown on the plan.
I,
Okay, so that's number one. Number two, if in fact it was not a building setback, why would the contractor saw cut the asphalt paving back to get the 26 feet?
He wanted his occupancy permit.
And you were asking for it.
You were asking for 26 feet. They had a U-Haul packed.
tonight, answer?
No.
Why are we backtracking here? Brian said that it's on the plan, that's a setback, so the board just has to, I think, make a decision whether that's it or not.
I would like to
And whether,
speak,
and whether the porches are considered part of the setback. I think the board needs to make these decisions one way or the other, it doesn't matter to me, I just need to, me and Bill
Right.
need to know that setback so we can do our job properly moving forward.
Good.
uh,
Yes?
I've been involved in the project since day one.
Mhm.
Was at every meeting from beginning till now. My recollection is that that was for parking spaces, to show adequate parking. But for argument's sake, say it is for a building setback. Control, and you're an engineer, wouldn't be to an edge of pavement.
Correct.
Control would be
This is a
to-
40B, it's not.
Control would be to some sort of constant that we would be able to pull from, where we would all be able to go with a tape. Edge of pavement, is it the cracked edge of pavement?
It would be the center of the road.
Yep, go ahead.
It would be something to that effect, yes, that you could pull a dimension from.
Absolutely.
And have real control. It wouldn't be to asphalt. Asphalt can vary as, and that's what happened here. We put 2-foot offsets for the paver to go by. He can wiggle out of that 6 inches and be 6 inches off with the asphalt.
Yep.
And which is what it shows when you do an overlay. We're 6 inches too far to the east. So if we're gonna use that edge of pavement as control for the buildings, we should be able to shift the pavement over to meet that setback when we do final top course.
If I could make a suggestion, if,
Hold on,
Sure.
because one of the members had a comment or question.
Well,
They
two,
take precedence.
absolutely.
plus I raised my finger first. Two questions. The first one that came into mind made me ask that, and another one came up as Tim was speaking.
Put my foot in my mouth.
No, 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 no,
That
no,
usually
no, no,
happens.
no, but you said,
Thank you, Ben.
in order to establish a dimension or a setback, you need a concept.
Yes.
Where'd these numbers come from?
Which numbers?
All this stuff.
They're just
We
pulling
got-
to
we got
edge,
dimensions everywhere.
just to edge of pavement. So the edge
But
of
how do you
pavement,
know the edge of pavement's right?
I agree with you 100%.
Oh, no, you.
I don't know the edge of
This says
pavement's right.
as-built.
Yeah, no one knows the edge of pavement, right? It's just shot in the field and
And
that's what you're pulling from.
My secondary question is, because you said that you could move this
Move
thing
it.
around,
Mhm.
what's the width of the road now?
Where the pavement was cut, 23, 6 inches,
And what's it supposed to be?
24 feet.
So where's the other 6 inches coming?
We can make it up
He
on the
just
other
shifted
side.
it.
But
It's a partial as-built.
You can make it up with the top course on the other side.
It's binder only at the moment.
There's
There's no curbs.
There's 22
And the
feet
reason
on
the
other
pavement was
side.
cut was trying to satisfy Bill.
Sure.
Bill, may I ask Bill a question?
Everybody's got their hands
Oh,
up.
I'm sorry.
But go ahead.
In terms of units 65 and 66, on this drawing, and I apologize, I don't know who prepared this drawing.
This is what was submitted.
This is what's
Yeah,
submitted.
all of these were recently submitted, with the exception of one.
Do those two units meet the setback of 26 feet sufficiently?
Again, it's, in my opinion, ambiguous, okay?
Ambiguous. Because you can't
I have a
tell-
disagreement with what they're saying in concept, okay? If you look at the legend, which is the second sheet of the drawings, it doesn't say pavement setback, it shows the same symbol as setback. So I think it's subject to interpretation as to what setback means. And when they show it with a dimension on this plan, that's from the baseline, which is a fixed point, and it's no different than a property boundary. And that's what really everything is coming off of. The road is coming off of that, the setback is coming off of that. It's not physically to the edge of pavement, it's from the baseline. So to that point, those setbacks are known and can be reproduced and can be shown to the 10th or 100th of a foot, as is common on lots.
Agreed. So
I kind of disagree too, because it's a driveway. If for some reason a construction came up and there was a massive piece of ledge and that driveway needed to scoot 6 inches, I would think that would be a minor change. This wasn't a subdivision approval, doesn't have a right-of-way layout. What I think Tim was referring to is that what a dimension should be pulled to is from right-of-way lines, concrete bounds, property markers. Those are what traditional zoning setbacks are determined from. This condominium project has a common driveway with no rights-of-way and no lot lines. The only ambiguous thing, and I agree, looking at the plans, is that someone decided to put 26-foot pavement setback and 20-foot pavement setback. And that's why we're here tonight. So my suggestion might be to, if we're gonna ask for a simple amendment on removing or adding the pavement to the portico units, maybe either eliminating this phantom setback or just agreeing in principle to make adequate parking because there are no property lines, and submit plans to that effect.
If I could just make a comment. If the intention was to establish a setback, it should have been stated in the comp permit. Douglas has done, before they did this, they did a flexible development permit, similar, where you can vary the setbacks. The new setbacks and side yards were specifically spelled out in the permit itself. Okay, they cited the old requirements and the new requirements. That was the same thing that was done on Forest View, the other 40B that was approved. In the permit itself, it said, these are the setbacks.
Those were different because those were single-family house projects.
Those were subdivisions.
Correct.
Which has setbacks.
But again,
This
if
does
you're
not.
intending to set a setback, it should have been mentioned
I know
in the
that was the
permit.
intent because I'm the one that raised it, and that's what the engineer showed.
Well, I was there as well, Bill.
Okay.
disagree, I think would say building setback.
Okay,
May I
thank
just
you.
ask a point of clarification? Irrespective of whether or not it's a subdivision way, right-of-way, et cetera, that center line is that center line, correct?
And it can't meander from off that.
Thank you.
Correct.
I just wanted to make that clear.
Why not?
Why can't it?
Why not?
It's
It's a
on the
driveway.
shown
That's
approved
what's shown
plan.
on the
But it's a
approved
driveway.
plans.
Does the-
Without a modification, you can't just change it in the field.
This plan get approved.
Right, it's,
You can't
So
say
how do
it's
you
not a
change it?
public way, or it's
it's
not a
access to
subdivision way, it's an
124
approved plan.
units.
How-
And it can't be
No
varied without
disputing
a
that.
modification.
I don't think it needs to be modified. If we locate the center line, I think the pavement is off the center line, 6 inches.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. You can sit down. Go on. You look like you're getting tired.
And not to beat a dead horse, but again, not being part of phase one, and now doing the level of detail we're doing, there are units in phase one that are less than 26 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So it got missed 4 or 5 times previous, not brought to this board's attention. Again, issued occupancy permits.
We probably had something else of higher concern at the time. We've had a lot of those.
Uh-huh.
So what's before us is to determine whether or not it's a setback from the foundation? Is that the term?
We need to determine what is shown on the plan. Is it a building setback
Yeah.
or is it otherwise? That's
Okay.
number one,
Yeah.
I guess, for the units that you're seeking occupancies on.
And if you find it to be a building setback, then we would request that it's an insubstantial change, and you can approve it tonight, so we can
Move
convey
forward.
these units to
That,
these people.
that's, I know we got your letter on the 7th, but that's not on your agenda.
No?
It's just, this
Yeah.
matter's on for discussion, so I think
No,
you need
possible vote.
application.
It's a
There's
possible
building
vote.
location,
It,
possible vote.
it doesn't say insubstantial modification on the agenda,
I think that was a request put forth.
in your letter, but not on the agenda. So you can request it, I don't
Yeah.
dispute that, you can obviously request it and get on the agenda, but that's not noticed on, for the purposes of the open meeting law for today. So I'm not raising a 40B, I'm raising an open meeting law issue.
I don't know, I'm looking for my phone. Did you see?
Oh, I thought you were looking for the. I didn't take your phone.
Oh, wonderful ZBA members, what would you like to do? I'm only the chairman at the time, at the moment.
I think we should approve.
Approve what?
How did I guess that?
Yeah, so you don't even know what we're talking about. I knew you weren't.
I don't even
paying
care,
attention.
this job's been about going on 5 years, right?
Oh, yeah.
10?
15.
2019.
Yeah, no, I-
15.
got-
Oh my God, how many
Ed was in high
apartments?
school.
How many apartments in the city?
124,
124.
or 30 built.
Jesus Christ, that's crazy.
There was all kinds of extenuating circumstances at the beginning of this project. Like the bottom dropped out of the market.
Well, I think we got 2 issues. One is determining the
Setback
the
issue.
setback, but I think it's on the plan, so I don't understand why that's an issue.
Mhm.
Because it clearly shows the building outside the pavement setback
Mhm. Yeah,
on the plans.
just- yeah.
So now,
So it's not changed, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
yeah, so
So therefore it's,
the
it's nothing to be publicly noticed.
change that
correct?
I see from this plan and from all these things is from when I went out there, that is parking now in front of the egress from the house, which pushes them out to the street.
Mm,
I think that causes more of a problem than anything else.
yeah. In reality, that's the issue derived from that, yeah.
But if we interpret it as a building setback, all we're doing is interpreting the plan that already exists. Does that require public notice? Because that's not a vote, is that a vote, making an interpretation?
Doesn't require a hearing.
No, not at this point. It's what they decide to do with that information that may or may not.
Mhm.
Okay.
But I think
But I think
before
the
anyone
the
can
plan
make
is pretty
intelligent
clear,
choices, they
so-
need to know what the will of the board is on that point.
Mhm, mhm.
And then they can decide how they want to accommodate for that.
And I think the applicant has, put these buildings in phase one and then in phase two almost identically along the way. We're not at a point where one's 15 feet closer than the
Yeah.
other. They're all very, very uniform within inches. So, to
With the
that
exception of the parking in front of the.
Correct. And I think the applicant is willing to remove that asphalt.
I think that's the biggest issue here.
Exactly. And I think just,
This plan that was presented, sorry to interrupt you, but this plan that was presented and approved, listening to your argument about the dimensionings brought from the outside edges of the property, that you don't consider where the road is and all this other nonsense. However, somebody specifically identified pavement setback to show, even though there's no lot line, to show where the building is gonna be located, okay? And all these show them out either touching the line or outside of the line. Now we encroach past the line, and I think that's our issue that we have.
Right, and what we're saying is, it's not a zoning blemish. It's just,
No, it's an agreement blemish. And-
Right.
And this, if I understood town council properly, this is the zoning rule now, no longer the book that we have. This is,
That's right.
this became our zoning rule, so it's not a blemish, it's an encroachment.
to what?
To the setback.
From what?
Discrepancy
Well,
or
but But
non-conformity.
it's not
Building.
defined anyplace in the permit. I
Right.
mean, you're taking a dotted line that says pavement
Pavement
setback,
setback,
and
and
you're
applying
saying
it to what?
that means it's a building setback, when it's not even mentioned. Setback is
Okay,
not
all right,
mentioned
all right.
any place in the permit.
Humor me for a minute. Why would they even put it there if it don't matter?
For
Why would-
parking. Why did it go on? To show the parking. That's
To
why
show
it
the
went
parking.
on.
So why don't we put the houses in front of that line?
Beg your pardon?
Houses have johns and porticos.
No, you could've just built the house
Whatever
in
that
between
line
the road and that dotted line, right? In
Correct.
theory, of what you're saying.
Right, and to that end, maybe they would have had some jogs out in the front, you know, overhanging that
Coincidentally,
setback.
it happens to be 20 feet.
Correct. Correct. On the other side of the street, they're all over the 26 foot.
But I think it goes back to, this is the approved plan.
But on the other side of the street, why is it okay to be 20 feet off and not 26?
Because one side has a
Has
sidewalk,
sidewalk.
and the sidewalk has a 3-foot separation in between the pavement, wherever that is, and the sidewalk, and the sidewalk's supposed to be 5 feet wide.
Right.
Yeah. Which leaves
So
18
what I'm
feet
saying
to the
is,
house.
the distance from the edge of paved to a building is only 20 feet on one side, and that's fine. But it's not good if it's 26 on the other side.
Because there's a
But-
sidewalk there.
But what's that for? For parking
For
and the
walking.
butt and, exactly, access, parking and access. Your vehicle
Parking and
parked,
access- oh, to
your
that
vehicle
house?
parked outside and the
Oh,
pedestrian access.
So then, so anybody that's walking around the neighborhood just goes around your car out in the street and back? No, that's your,
But that's in my opinion what the intent of that line is for. That was the question.
Okay.
Not the building,
Okay, so.
because the building can be 20 feet on the other side of the street.
Okay, so we've.
It's for the parking.
anyways, if you want my opinion, I think that setback line was put on there to show where the houses or the
Yeah.
buildings
No-
don't
no
go any
further
further
down.
towards the driveway, right of way, whatever you wanna
Yeah.
call it. And the issue that I have mostly is parking in front of the porch. That's not shown on anything other than when you physically go up there and look. And I don't think you need 8 feet to get out of your car.
Oh, I agree with
That's
you.
a parking spot.
Do we have a consensus on our board that it's the building? It's the building, yeah. So there's a consensus here, Louis? What do you think?
First of all, I don't know who owns the land. Who owns the land?
Condominium association.
NorthBrown Condominium Association.
Nobody got hurt on it. Nothing big.
We're simply trying to draw a line and say, you know, this is how it is, and this is what you need to look at. We've got a lot of the building projects still to finish.
Yeah,
So,
but
you know.
still, it's who owns the land? I mean, he could take the land, he could give this guy 3 feet, he could give him 10 feet, right or wrong. He don't, the people who live in that house,
No, I don't think you could, because I think it's spelled out in the condo docs.
done deal.
Well, yeah,
Common
yeah,
space.
but- yeah,
But in any event,
The condo
that
association-
pavement that pavement setback was put on there to delineate where these buildings were gonna be from the street.
Right,
That's
but-
what that was for.
but the condo association owns the land. And they have to pay the taxes,
Okay.
okay?
All right.
Nobody else.
Thanks, Louis.
Yeah.
Are we all set on this? Building commissioner, any more input?
I just would like you to give me
The
some
answer, I
direction
want the
on
answer.
the
I wanna go
lines
home, okay?
and-
You
You
got
still
it?
got you still got the porch 4 feet in the, if that's a setback,
Yeah.
the porch is in it. It's part of the structure, I don't care what anybody says here.
Oh, yeah.
Is the porch 4 feet wide?
So if you wanna give permission for that,
Yeah.
that's fine with
Yeah.
me.
Okay.
Move it out.
So, I mean,
Clarify
obviously,
that
the
for me.
way the building inspector is looking at it, the porch is part of the structure.
Right, that it is.
Louis even agrees.
Part of the
So-
structure, not part of the building. It's not,
Is it part of the pavement setback?
in terms of how building is defined,
Sorry,
it
Ed, I
doesn't
just got
include the
laughing,
porch.
but-
I think that's what we're looking at, that it does include the porch, so. Probably.
I like to build a house for you,
We're looking at.
When you want your porch put on, say, dude, that's not part of the structure.
So I mean, can I say one more thing?
Sure.
So if you, I mean, if it is part of the porches,
Now
in
what?
the setback, you move it back, now it solves their parking issue, they can put their parking in front of it, so
Yeah.
it's, I mean,
They have to reconstruct the whole front of the building, but yeah.
no, they just gotta move the
Oh,
whole
you're
building
right.
back.
They can't move some of them back, they're already into their retention pond.
Tim, I see your hand up for a minute.
So I think we're gonna argue over the porches and the setback.
Well-
So we would come in and ask for modification on the porches. Yeah. As far as the two-car garage without the porch, the one that I think it's unit 65 or 66, is encroaching by 6 inches to the pavement setback. I believe the center line, because we have more room on the left-hand, on the west side of the project there, that the road could be shifted over 6 inches. I think the center line, the pavement's off from the correct center line. So we would like to receive occupancy for those two units.
65, 66?
Yes, we would. Yeah, they do not have the porches, and we'll come in for a modification for the porches. Is that right, Ed?
Yeah. Can we do that?
So my question to that end is, where are you measuring this 26 feet from, Mark? Is it the edge of pavement, or is it coming off the baseline?
Exactly what I was gonna say. Because if you
26
can
feet.
show that, then you're gonna satisfy the, you
Right,
can
that's
show that the
exactly right.
setback exists from that measurement, then
To-
you've got a compliant application.
To the baseline. Center line.
From the
Center.
baseline.
Yes.
Yeah, from the
Yeah.
baseline,
Yeah.
correct.
I think we need to pull that.
Yeah, I'd have to look at it.
Yeah, we gotta look at
I
that,
don't know if
because
that
that's
information
measured to
exists
edge of
right now.
pavement.
Yeah, we didn't locate the center line of the road.
Okay, well, that,
We were told about a 20-foot, 6-foot edge of paved
okay.
setback. not
Well,
center
that
line.
could be dispositive right there.
But I would even say, in the request for an amendment, we do away with this silly 20-foot setback.
I would like to, but I don't know if that's going anywhere.
Question for another day.
Yeah. But to move forward with the project, we have customers that are ready, willing, and able, and would like to move in. I would like to locate that center line and see if we are within reason. And I would request the occupancy for that unit, and for the one with the front porch, we will come in for a modification.
So, Bill, do we want to just take a consensus that the...
Well, they either meet it or they don't.
That if they-
From my perspective, it's
Yep.
black and white. If
Yep.
they don't meet it is the question. So,
That's
you know, I
correct.
would put that to Mark and, you know, the confidence level. You're saying it's off baseline, is it further away or is it closer, you know?
Well, the time will tell. We'll have to go out and actually locate it and see. But if it was off, say the baseline is correct, and we were outside of what you are calling a setback, we would have to come in for a modification.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And 5 or 6 previous
But
units
but that's,
would probably
that
need
means
it
you're not
too.
gonna close though, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well,
So what's your
yes.
confidence level?
I have no idea.
Would you have a better suggestion for me?
Right.
Well, I mean,
I don't think
Well,
the
I'm
intent
not
of the
look-
permit is at
Which
hand
is gonna
here.
take
Comprehensive permit is pretty.
You're talking about 65 and 66?
Yes.
yes.
And it's, and I just want
If I
to,
could-
sure,
one minute.
sure.
Forget about the porches for a moment, okay? Just a mathematical problem. If we're 20 feet on this side and 26 on this side, and then you got 23 feet, you have 22 feet, 26 and 27, that road can shift wherever it needed to be to accommodate the 20.
No,
and-
baseline is the baseline, so
Well,
they're
we can
saying the
modify
road
the
was not
baseline.
centered on the baseline.
Based
And
on-
they're measuring these numbers from the road and not the baseline.
Pull me out of engineer, Will,
Right.
tell me what
Yeah.
you're talking about baseline.
He's getting me.
Center line of the road
Okay.
But I still think you can.
is,
But-
is
but-
a,
but where it's located
is a
here on the
constant
plan?
metric
Right.
in the real world, and they can
Okay.
take a measurement of where that's supposed to be.
Okay.
Now, what he's saying is, the way it was actually built, it might have swayed a little bit one or the
Yeah.
other. So they have to go back to the constant, find out what that measurement is, and it might turn out that that's fine.
Mhm.
It might turn out it's not fine, but there is a constant in this whole equation, and they need to figure out that value.
When we did the overlay,
Mhm.
and you can see the light gray line, this is
Yeah.
paved, this is 65, this is 66. The dark black line is existing pavement, the light gray is proposed. And you can see this is east,
Closer.
this is
Yep,
west.
yep.
I am over
Yep.
the 6 inches here, and I have
Yep.
the 6 inches there. I think the pavement is
Tough to
off
say on a plan like
6
that, but
inches.
yeah.
Yeah.
I understand.
Right.
Yeah, but to Mike's point.
So it sounds
yeah,
like your confidence level is good,
Yes.
then, that you'll meet it. So then they should just demonstrate.
Yep.
If it was the other way, I'd say maybe the board wants to take some action to give them a little relief
Right.
if they thought it was appropriate.
Well, I would take that relief now.
Well,
If that's what you
If I-
suggested.
if you wanna do
Just raise
both in
his hand
parallel. You wanna do both in parallel. I don't know which one's gonna be faster. You're either gonna get your measurement, or you're gonna have to ask for relief.
If we have to come in for modification, doing the measurement tomorrow morning would be the fastest route.
Okay.
But if we don't have to come in for a modification, we could get some relief tonight.
No, we can't
Well,
vote on the
well,
relief tonight.
Well, okay,
It's not on our agenda.
Right.
But you could issue let the occupancy permit
you can
go.
let the occupancy
No,
permit.
yeah.
You can-
Well, the unit
Well, you've done it
65
Before. on-
Well, we're not
on-
doing it
on the
anymore
affordable.
since I've been corrected.
And I'm not sure that the 40B statute says a written request for a comp permit change, and it can be granted without a hearing.
It still needs to be compliant with the open meeting law, and I'm not gonna let the board vote on something that isn't on their agenda.
Location of buildings with a possible vote is not within the, I mean, I think you're taking a very,
Discussion of buildings?
I think you're taking a very.
Well, I've been working 20 years with the Division of Open Government, and that's my opinion. I've given it to the board. We don't have to agree. Maybe we're not gonna agree.
can,
All right, another point. In terms of this building, the issue is this corner right here. It's got nothing to do with Unit 66.
Correct.
Right.
So if we could.
It's one
if we
structure,
could-
that's the only reason I was.
Right,
Yeah.
but if we could agree to get the permit for 66, and then we'll measure the center line regarding 65. Is that agreeable?
That's not for us to
I
decide.
mean, again, it goes back to, we're establishing parameters here is the way I see it. And the parameter is the center line of the road, the baseline is where we're measuring these distances from. And it either complies or it doesn't. That hasn't been presented yet.
Well, 66 has, right?
66.
Not 65.
66.
Well, that's measured the same way, it's not off the baseline.
Yeah.
but it is showing
I stole it.
27 feet.
Like we're showing 27 feet from an arbitrary point.
I gave her the pen.
Anyways,
She's gonna be blunt, this is full call.
Well, they're all,
They're all arbitrary.
they're all
points.
arbitrary at this point, because the center line nothing has been measured from the center.
No.
Not in phase 1, not in phase 2.
Hey, may I just offer a suggestion, Madam Chair?
Yes, you may.
It seems that the board, at least, has done as much as it can do tonight, and that this conversation, the occupancy permit, what needs to be shown in the application, is something that happens between the building commissioner and engineering. Board's not gonna issue an occupancy permit, so I think the direction that the board was asked to grant has been granted. Stop me if I'm missing something here, so I think the board's role, at least with what's in front of it this evening, has been completed.
Which is the interpretation.
So just for clarity, the building location is pulled off the foundation or off the front porch?
well, that's not,
No, that's
they're
not.
gonna come back and seek
Yeah.
relief on that later.
Okay, all right, okay,
Right.
all right. So
But-
right now, it's off the foundation.
Yeah, that's what we decided on.
But
From the
In
center
the
line,
porch.
units
from the
of con-
baseline.
The units of concern at this moment don't have porches, so it's
That
it's
will-
not a problem
absolutely.
today.
Really? I'm glad.
I will-
Correct.
Correct, yes.
Right. Tim's following me, don't we?
Go back.
I'll even bring a shovel.
But still, nobody owns the property,
No, I don't.
right? Nobody owns the property. So I don't know, you know, it's gotta be straightened out, but it can be straightened out because nobody owns the property. Now, if this was a place where you said, hey, you know, you got 25 feet of my property, what the hell happened? What'd you guys do? That didn't happen. The property is owned by the association, am I right, Ed?
Yes.
Okay, so there's no hullabaloo, it's gotta be straightened out.
Oh, there's lots of hullabaloo, Louis, but it, you know, right now, we're not gonna figure that one out.
Okay,
So, you know, I guess what we're leaving is, we're leaving our commissioner,
You want that?
our building commissioner and our engineer
that gray
in a tight spot.
No? You're leaving these people.
Well, I understand that, I understand that. And,
But if we can show baseline tomorrow, which is what we're gonna try to achieve, and
Then that-
go
that-
from there,
that will
then we could,
satisfy-
that would satisfy,
that'll move forward,
and then
everything?
you're granting
Good.
Bill
Thank
permission
It's
you.
the
to
log
release.
jam,
That's good.
Yep,
That
is
would
that
be-
correct?
potentially,
Good,
yes.
so
Okay.
get busy with your tape measure. Super. Yeah, because I don't want to hold up your clients at all.
So we'll do that
Potential
first thing
residents of
tomorrow.
Douglas, we want to make you happy.
Please do.
As do we.
hey, it happens.
So is there anything else that we need to discuss about this? Probably not, it being 9:15. Our brains are fried.
Move to adjourn.
Oh,
Second.
oh, that's a good idea. All those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. You're trying to even